Good evening. I hope you felt welcome tonight by our Finance Director, Kelly McGuire, and our Assistant Finance Director, Chris Bile. They were our greeters. It is September 18th, 2019 at 7 p.m., and this is the regular City Commission meeting post-Dorian. We are pleased to be back in session, and for anyone who has not filled out a card but wishes to speak on any item on or off the printed agenda, you need to get those in to the clerk to my right as quickly as possible, just to make sure you're not missed. I'd like to start tonight's meeting off with a moment of silence for former Commissioner Joe Thompson and his family. For those of you who haven't heard, Joe passed away last evening after having been in hospice care. Commissioner Thompson served on the City Commission for 16 years from 1980 through 1995, representing Zone 4. During his time on the commission, he was considered some of his greatest accomplishments to be the installation of sewers on Hand Avenue, amending the policy to lease rather than sell land at the city's airport, installing bike paths along Hand Avenue and Nova Road, the paving of Old Kings Road, Division Avenue, and Hammock Lane, the establishment of Central Park, the development of Riviera Park, construction of the fishing pier, development of recreation facilities and fields at the airport, and addressing drainage issues at Fox Hollow, Laurel Oaks, and the trails South 40. The population of Ormond Beach increased by 40% during his time on the commission, and Commissioner Thompson was proud of accomplishing so much while maintaining a low tax rate and not privatizing or selling city infrastructure. One of his great lasting legacies is the Commission's Thompson Rule. Named after Commissioner Thompson, the rule was established via Resolution number 95-165 and provides that whenever a matter is presented to the City Commission under the audience remarks, discussion items or reports, suggestions, and requests portion of the meeting agenda without documentation regarding the matter having been provided to the members of the Commission at least 72 hours prior to the meeting, the Commission shall take no formal action until the Commission has had time to review the necessary information and consider it at a future meeting. The City Commission has the ability to waive the Thompson Rule for matters of emergency or involving deadlines, but only by a 2/3 vote of the total membership of the Commission. The Thompson Rule has since been included by name in the City Commission's Rules of Procedure, adopted biannually at the Commission's organizational meetings, and referred to often, even as recently as within the last year. So want to recognize Commissioner Joe Thompson, and if we could just take a brief moment of silence and keep his family in your prayers as well. Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to introduce the folks who are sitting up in front of you. To my right and your left is Recording Secretary Cassidy Ritz, our City Clerk Colby Salento, Commissioner Dwight Selby from Zone 1, our Deputy Mayor and Zone 2 Commissioner Troy Kent. To my left and your right, Commissioner Susan Persis, Zone 3, Commissioner Rob Littleton, Zone 4, City Manager Joyce Shanahan, Assistant City Manager Claire Whitley, City Attorney Randy Hayes, and for those of you listening online, I'm Mayor Bill Partington. At this time, if you would please silence your cell phones and rise for the invocation given by Chaplain Sam Mercado from Florida Hospital Memorial Medical Center, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Almighty God, we gather here today to make decisions for our community. And Lord, we also stand here this evening to say thank you for sparing us from the major effects of Hurricane Dorian. May we use this opportunity to gather here to use only our best skills and judgment, keeping ourselves impartial and neutral as we consider the merits and pitfalls of each matter that is placed before us. May we act in accordance with what is best for our community and our fellow citizens. And we ask your blessing and guidance on our city leaders as they make these decisions in behalf of our community. In your holy name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Mikado. We will move to agenda item number 4, adoption of the fiscal year 2019-2020 proposed millage rates and tentative budget. And at this time, I'll ask the city clerk to read resolution 2019-153 by title only.
Resolution number 2019-153, a resolution adopting proposed millage rates for the 2019 to 2020 fiscal year, establishing a date, time, and place for a public hearing to adopt final millage rates and final budget, and setting forth an effective date. This is resolution number 2019-153, read by title only.
Thank you. Per Florida statute, I'm required to state that the proposed millage rate for the city of Ormond Beach necessary to fund the fiscal year 2017-2018 budget is 4.0870 mils. I'm thinking that's wrong, Colby. How about 2019-2020?
Yep.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yep.
All right, that's just a typo.
Okay.
And I apologize for having to read all this to you, but it is required by statute, and so it's very precise, and we need to get it right the first time. Fund the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget is 4.0870 mils. This rate is 3.36% above the rollback rate of 3.9543 mils. The tentative debt service millage rates are 0.0330 for the 2003 General Obligation Bond Sinking Fund and 0.1000 for the 2010 General Obligation Bond Sinking Fund. This is a public hearing. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak or ask questions prior to the adoption of the tentative millage rate? And I do have 2 cards. We will start with Joyce Pepin.
Thank you. I'm here to thank you for including the design and permitting of phase 1 of the septic to sewer study that needs to happen to allow for permitting and to go forward with that project. It's the right thing to do environmentally, and I expect as a bonus, our property values in Ormond by the Sea will be increased. So thank you so much for including this in the budget.
Thank you, Joyce. Next is Ed Kelly.
Ed Kelly, 53 River Ridge Trail. Thank you very much, and I know by law you have to say it's an increase. I look at everything that's an increase if I pay more for it. This year, I'm happy to report that I will be paying less Ormond Beach taxes than I did last year. And people don't like to hear this. I'm paying less than I did in 2005 by $300 and less than I paid in 2011. Those are the facts. When you pay less and you get more, the service and everything we have, congratulations, my hat's off to you. Keeping our taxes low but providing the level of services that you do is why I still think Ormond Beach is the place of choice to live, work, and play, and serve.
Thank you,
Thank you very much.
just need a motion and second to adopt the tentative operating millage rate of 4.0870 and the debt service millage rates of 0.0330 and 0.1000.
So moved.
Second.
The tentative operating millage of 4.0870 mils is 3.36% above the rolled back millage rate. The resolution also includes adoption of the tentative debt service millage rates of 0.0330 for the 2003 General Obligation Bond Sinking Fund and 0.1000 for the 2010 General Obligation Bond Sinking Fund. Colby, if you would, please call the vote.
Commissioner Selby,
Yes.
Commissioner Kent,
Yes.
Commissioner Persis,
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton,
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. The operating millage rate is set at 4.0870 mils, which is equal to 3.36% above the rolled back millage rate of 3.9543 mils. We move to 4B.
Ordinance number 2019-29, an ordinance adopting the annual budget for the 2019 to 2020 fiscal year, beginning October 1st, 2019, and ending September 30th, 2020, repealing all inconsistent ordinances or parts thereof and setting forth an effective date. This is the first reading of ordinance number 2019-29, read by title only.
Thank you, Colby. I just need a motion and second.
Move for approval ordinance number 2019-29.
Second.
Any discussion? Colby, please call the vote.
Commissioner Kent,
Yes.
Commissioner Persis,
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton,
Yes.
Commissioner Selby,
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. We have adopted a budget of $101,984,621. Do I hear any objection to closing the public hearing? Hearing none, the public hearing is closed, and we move on to agenda item 5, presentations and proclamations. Are the All-Stars World Series team here?
like they're out there.
Go ahead and bring them in. Hard to hear. Okay. Is Commissioner Bohm present tonight? No. I just have to give him, okay, he's out of town. I just wanted to give him a shout out for, he kind of started us having, at the beginning of our meetings, some of the very positive things that happen in the city of Ormond Beach. And this is a great occasion. The Ormond Beach 9U All-Stars World Series team and coaches were the district champions as well as runners-up in the state tournament, requiring them to make an appearance at the regional tournament and then earning them the opportunity to compete in the Babe Ruth Cal Ripken World Series in Jensen Beach, Florida. While at the World Series, the team faced tough competition against seeded teams who were longtime organized travel ball teams. The Ormond Beach All-Stars were recognized by the World Series Committee for their competitive spirit and honored by receiving the Sportsmanship Award. The All-Stars finished in 13th place for the 9U division, making history for the city of Ormond Beach by attending the World Series. Upon return, the team was honored with the Field of Dreams Team Award at the Daytona Tortugas home game on August 28th. Cam Harris and Palmer Corey got to throw out a first pitch, and the entire team stood on the field with the Tortugas during the national anthem. So congratulations to all of you. I have some certificates and pens to give each of you, but Mr. McKinnon, I'm going to let you say a few words.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Those are the boys accomplished quite a bit. The reason that we asked to come here tonight is none of the things that they accomplished would have been possible without the city. The opportunities that they have had are a direct reflection of the efforts of the city staff, of you as the council, all the way through leisure services, even down to the groundskeeper. If it wasn't for your commitment to the Ormond recreation as a whole, these young kids would never have had that opportunity. They achieved some amazing things. My favorite story is we took them as a rec team to these tournaments. A rec team, maybe many of you know, is a team that is simply just kids who come out and participate in recreational sports. That is, they might play 2 nights a week. We have that privileged here in Ormond because we have the facilities and you all provide those facilities. But they're not travel teams and they're not sponsored by big companies, and we don't have a ton of financial backing. So these are just kids who got together and they put this team together and wanted to see what they could do. And so we took this team, Dave Harris, Harry Newkirk, and John Bruce. We took these kids to these tournaments, and lo and behold, we won that regional tournament. Decided, well, now we have to go to the state tournament. And we went to the state tournament, and every day I packed the car to go home, and they kept winning. And then I had to go back and check it out again. We did that for 3 days till we became the runners-up, and then we went to the World Series. But
Good stuff.
The reason that we wanted to come is, again, to thank you all. And the boys decided they wanted to present the city, you and city manager and all, with their trophy for the regional and their runner-up trophy at state. They also have a Cal Ripken poster here that they all signed. They have another poster that it's like a banner that they took that Babe Ruth provided to them. And there's actually another one we have at home which is actually a little larger we forgot to bring, but I'll bring it later. But the real privilege is what you provide, and we certainly hope that for kids to come, they'll have those same opportunities, and that all the people understand that it takes not only your commitment, but everyone here at the city, all the way down to groundskeepers, to provide these. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I want to bring each player up individually to get their certificate, and then if we line up for a picture, I'll give the deputy mayor one trophy and Commissioner Persis one trophy. I'll hold the banner picture in the middle, and we'll get a nice framed picture of the team and the commission. So let's start with Nathaniel Anderson. That's quite a ring. Fantastic. Evan Attar. Did I get that right? Congratulations. Thank you. Christopher Bailey. Nice. Nice for you. Richie Bennett. Jason Bruce. Congratulations. Parker, is it Chiepa? Chipa, okay. Jackson Friesor. Congratulations. Cam Harris. Congratulations. David Izzarelli. Nope. Palmer Corey. Congratulations. Cole McKinnon. Congratulations. Dallas Newkirk. How are you? Congratulations. And last, I believe, but not least, Nolan Penny. Congratulations. All right. If you guys will all come up, just to kind of balance yourselves equally around the podium. Can you see these two? Okay. Everybody good? Good deal. Congratulations. That was really good. Yeah, I appreciate it. Let me give you those for the guys that didn't make it. Yeah. Are you taking these back? No, these are yours. Okay. They're yours. We'll find a good spot for them. Thank you. Robert, on the side. Thank you. All right, that was fun. Equally as fun are the folks who run our Constitution Week, and it's the Captain James Ormond chapter of the National Society, Daughters of the American Revolution. And Dee Clark, are you here? Come on forward and bring anybody with you. I think you have your committee chairman with you. Great. Awesome. Thank you. This is a fabulous group. I don't know if you've ever been to a DAR meeting, but just fun. You make the Constitution fun, which is hard to do, believe me. It really is. But you guys, you care deeply about it, and you're very professional in the way you present it. And I've been impressed and privileged to attend and present the proclamation on behalf of the city for the last few years. So I have a proclamation. Did you want to say a few words too? Perfect. Let me present this, and then you guys will be up next. Whereas the National Society, Daughters of the American Revolution, was founded on October 11th, 1890, to perpetuate the memory and the spirit of the men and women who achieved American independence, to promote the development of an enlightened public opinion, and to foster patriotic citizenship. And whereas the Captain James Ormond chapter of the National Society, Daughters of the American Revolution, was organized in 1966 in Ormond Beach, Volusia County, Florida. The chapter was named for Captain James Ormond, whose family settled in Volusia County around 1790. And whereas September 17th, 2019 marks the 232nd anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week. Now therefore, I, Bill Partington, Mayor of the City of Ormond Beach, do hereby proclaim September 17th through 23rd, 2019 as Constitution Week and as a time to celebrate the Captain James Ormond chapter of the National Society, Daughters of the American Revolution in the city of Ormond Beach. Congratulations.
Thank you.
A few things here. There are two documents of paramount importance to American history: the Declaration of Independence, which forged our national identity, and the United States Constitution, which set forth the framework for the federal government that functions to this day. Our celebration goals are threefold: encourage the study of historical events that led to the framing of the Constitution in September 1789, and remind the public that the Constitution is the basis of America's great heritage and the foundation for its way of life. DAR fosters the knowledge of and the appreciation for the Constitution and the inalienable rights it affords to all Americans. to keep alive the memory of men and women who secured our nation's foundational liberties. Communities across America, members have erected hundreds of community displays. You can see our display in the Ormond Beach Library front display window. DAR has more than 185,000 members across the country and several foreign countries. We are proud to say that in October, DAR will hit 1 million members. Our preservation, education, and patriotism via commemorative events, scholarships, educational initiatives, citizenship programs, service to veterans, and meaningful community service. We hope you will all join us for the Wreaths Across America at our historic Hillside Cemetery beachside on December 14th, 2019 at noon. We will be placing over 180 wreaths on veterans' graves from all American battles. Again, thank you, Mayor Parrington and the City of Ormond Beach for this proclamation.
All right, now we'll move on to audience remarks regarding items not on the agenda. I have a few cards. First up is Janet Nutt.
My name is Janet Nutt, and I live in Ormond by the Sea.
Yes, ma'am.
Those individuals who are very keen to force Ormond by the Sea residents to fork out a lot of money so they can profit from real estate development on the North Peninsula pretend to be doing this to protect the environment. They refer, of course, to the aquatic environment of the Tomoka Basin. They are doing this with no evidence whatsoever that the current conditions of the water in the Tomoka Basin has anything to do with the septic systems in the North Peninsula. I would like to remind these people that Ormond by the Sea is our living environment. We actually like it in Ormond by the Sea just the way it is. We like our little houses and the roads with very little traffic and the lack of crime. We don't want a little Miami in Ormond by the Sea. We don't want A1A and John Anderson Drive converted into 4-lane racetracks. We don't want to keep our doors locked and guns propped against the wall in case of unwelcome intruders. We don't want thousands of new residents tossing their trash through car windows as they leave Ormond by the Sea for their jobs in Orlando. And we don't want 30-story monstrosities blocking the view and access to our beaches. The real estate moguls and city commissioners who want to make more money before they retire are welcome to do so. That's an admirable objective. But be our guests, but please don't do it somewhere else and not in Ormond by the Sea at our expense. I recently read that Ormond Beach has plans, to rip out all the trees in the median on Granada from Orchard to west of 95. How many times have you done this in the past 20-plus years that I've lived here? I don't want to be rude, but it seems that you can't decide on simple landscaping for the city. So what makes you, or more importantly me, think that you can make decisions for septic tanks or sewers on behalf of Ormond by the Sea? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is Roger Nutt.
Good evening. My name is Roger Nutt. I have an honours degree in physics from the University of Manchester, and I've spent the last 57 years as a petrophysicist. This includes understanding how fluids move through porous formations. The main justification being given to force people in Ormond by the Sea to accept the Ormond Beach sewage system is the conclusions reached in the report on the status of sewage disposal and collection in Volusia County, Florida, dated November 2013. Yesterday morning, Tuesday, September the 17th, I pointed out to the county commissioners that this report is neither objective nor scientific, that its conclusions are worthless, and that no further reference should be made to it as it is technically meaningless. It is our understanding that the water in the Tomoka Basin contains unacceptable amounts of pollutants, mainly nitrates, and that there is an understandable and quite justifiable desire to reduce this nitrate pollution. It also appears that the explanation being given for the presence of these nitrates in the waters of the Tomoka Basin is septic sewage systems in Ormond by the Sea. We are not convinced that this is the case. We do not believe that the necessary scientific measurements have been made to test this idea. In fact, we are convinced on very practical and scientific grounds that it would be very difficult for the septic sewage systems of Ormond by the Sea to be contributing to nitrate pollution in the Tomoka Basin. We intend, in the near future, to obtain all the information necessary to prove that the septic systems in Ormond by the Sea do not contribute a significant amount of pollution to the Tomoka Basin. Should we succeed, please be advised that we will not take kindly to the current plans to force us to be connected to the Ormond Beach Central Sewage System at our expense. If we are unable to stop you from continuing this useless exercise, at the very least, we will expect the City of Ormond Beach to connect each and every household in the North Peninsula at the city's expense and to compensate the citizens of the village of Ormond by the Sea for the disruption, damages, and inconvenience this process will inevitably cause. In conclusion, I have a very serious suggestion. Stop pandering to the real estate profiteers who are continually shouting in your ears and listen to the thousands of little voices they are trying to drown out. Just once, you may be able to achieve something really useful without squandering millions of dollars of other people's money in the process.
Thank you. Michael McBride.
Good evening. My name is Michael McBride, 58 River Drive, Ormond by the Sea. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I just came back into the area. I had a family emergency in New Hampshire, and I came back, and while I was up there, I read something in the news journal about what was going on. I was unaware of anything having to do with sewers going into Ormond by the Sea or a septic problem. I mean, so I come back down here, and I joined the association because I think we need to be collectively engaged in finding out the correct information. There's a lot of things out there that I don't believe, but you know, I didn't even know that Ormond. I mean, I knew I got my water from Ormond Beach, but I didn't know that I wasn't represented within the city at all, and it's only county. I mean, I realized that it was unincorporated, but so my main concern is this is not something that's going to take place tomorrow. You have a study that you're citing from 2013. I mean, the gentleman that just spoke claims it's unscientific. I don't have his education, but I did study environmental law for my degree in environmental and urban economics from the University of Massachusetts. And I think we need more testing done. And the other thing that concerns me is how antiquated are your sewer systems in Ormond Beach? I have family that lives in Ormond Beach. I'm 5 streets north. Actually, probably not even that many, like 3. So that's my main concern is why are we rushing to eliminate septic without addressing the sewer issues that could be contributing to the pollution in the Halifax River and Tomoka River Basin? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Michael. Vincent, I think it's Gans. Good evening.
Vinny Gans, Ormond by the Sea. Hello, I am glad that I am able to speak here today. I think everybody who is concerned about sewer to septic conversion can agree with me that we have had so many questions and have not gotten any real answers. I've heard so many different answers from politicians, it's not even funny. There's all different economic levels in Ormond by the Sea, as you know. There's people that live on John Anderson, people that live on the water, neighbors who have $100,000 cars, some that live on Social Security, and there's people like me that live in a 900-square-foot house who's about to have their first kid pitching pennies. This leads to my first question. If sewers are completely free, I'm sure many of us will be okay with hooking up. But let's be honest, you know it's not going to be. If they are not free, why would you as a city try to force a cost on us as county that so many cannot afford? There's people saying that we should pay it because sewers will increase the value of my house. How are sewers supposed to increase the value of my 900-square-foot house $10,000 to $15,000? If I have to pay it, that will put me upside down in my house that I just bought. Secondly, why would you as a city worry about septics in Ormond by the Sea when you have a ton of septics in Ormond, the city? I think you should worry about the possible pollution by septics in your own area and your own jurisdiction before going into county properties. Third point, I was told by the county attorney that if the city expects the property owners to share in the expense of installing a sewer system, the county council will have to be involved. Why have you not included Heather Post, our representatives, in your meetings? It has already been said that you'll be looking for state funding or options like low-interest loans for homeowners, which means you as a city do not have the money. So far, the city has been saying that one thing while the opposite is being done. City representatives have said multiple times that this is not about annexation, but yet it is written on your website and comprehensive plan. For my house is my investment, and what you will possibly be doing to me will lead my family and I to lose money on it. It is one thing to lose money due to the market shift. It is another to lose money because of an overreaching government being done by a city. I'm all for saving the environment and not wanting to pollute. But from what I've seen about sewer systems, they pollute our waters also. The first thing everyone is going to label anyone who does not want to convert is someone who does not want to help the environment. I want clean water and a non-polluted environment. I think the city council needs to not hide behind the claim of wanting to save the environment and admit to the real motives for wanting sewers.
Bonda Garrison. I had this in my closing remarks, so you're saving me having to go too much in detail on it, but this is great. Go
okay. My name is Bonda Garrison, 365 Notting Hill Street. I'm the president of the Ormond Beach Historical Society, and I just wanted to come today to tell the commission as well as the citizens of Ormond Beach that we're very happy that we are presenting our 13th annual lecture series. The programs begin September the 28th. We were able to secure a matching grant from the Florida Humanities Council, which is as a result of the support that we get from the citizens for this. 100 to 150 people every time for one of our programs. They start in September. They run until the end of June. I brought rack cards with me. I sent them to all of you. There's a pile of them in the back if any citizens want to pick them up. We also have our Oktoberfest coming up this Saturday from 1 to 7. We've asked the mayor to do the ceremonial tap of the first keg. So this is the first day. Everybody says, why is it September? Because this is the first day that it's done in Germany. They actually start in September. So come out this Saturday. We also have 3 great kids programs coming up the remainder of this year. Eco Rangers, which we do in conjunction with the Art Museum, the Casements, and the Environmental Center, and 2 other children's programs. And our annual tour of homes, save the date, that's December the 15th this year. It's Sunday the 15th. All of this information can be found on our website, ormondhistory.org. Thank you for your continued support of the Historical Society. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonda. Rich Cooper.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mayor, commissioners, and staff. I'm here tonight. I'm Rich Cooper, 1400 Hand Avenue, commercial property owner, and I'm the current chairman of the Ormond Beach Chamber of Commerce. I'm here tonight to do a little timely bragging. Today I had the opportunity to attend the Florida Association of Chamber Professionals annual luncheon. It was conveniently located at the Daytona Shores Spa and Resort, and we had the distinct honor of receiving our Certified Plus Chamber of Commerce certification, which that means that we met all the qualifications plus exceeded them. It's the first time for this chamber. Very proud. And I know as good as our board is and our volunteers and our staff, it couldn't have been done without our executive director, Debbie Cotton, who coincidentally today earned her FCCP designation, which is the highest honor and highest award and certification you can get as a chamber professional. We're very proud of her, and I wanted to share that with you guys. Thank you.
Awesome. Congratulations. Rashida Hakim.
Hi, I'm Rashida Hakim, resident of Ormond by the Sea. We're told that Ormond Beach's sole motivation behind the proposed conversion of Ormond by the Sea's septic systems to a sewer system is concern for the quality of the water of the Halifax River. Of course, we're all in agreement that this is very important. The presence of nitrogen and phosphorus nutrient pollution in the water of the Halifax may come from agriculture, stormwater runoff, wastewater, fossil fuels, detergents, or fertilizer overuse, according to the EPA. Volusia County passed a fertilizer ordinance in 2014 to attempt to combat this known source of nitrogen and phosphorus. Ordinance 2014-09 applies to all homes and businesses in Volusia County, except those in Deltona and DeBary, which have their own ordinances, according to the county website. From June 1st through September 30th, application of fertilizers containing nitrogen and phosphorus is prohibited. Fertilizer may not be applied within 15 feet of bodies of water. Fertilizer containing nitrogen may be applied only between October 1st and May 31st and must contain no less than 50% slow-release nitrogen. Asking around, I have learned that there is almost no awareness in Ormond Beach that there is a fertilizer ordinance and virtually no idea of the restrictions. The riverfront lawns are nearly all turf grass. John Anderson is often blocked by trucks from True Green, ChemLawn, and other companies while they apply fertilizer and pesticides to these riverfront lawns. There does not seem to be any enforcement of this ordinance in Ormond Beach, and if anything has been done to make citizens aware of the ordinance, it is not working very well. If Ormond Beach is so concerned about the water quality of the Halifax, why can we buy nitrogen and phosphorus containing fertilizer in local stores any day of the year? And why doesn't Ormond Beach have and enforce a fertilizer ordinance to keep these pollutants out of the Halifax?
Linda Williams.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As a part of our series on smart growth, Civil Discourse has invited Katrina Locke, the Sustainability and Natural Resources Director for Volusia County, to be one of 3 members of a panel to discuss sustainability, environmental issues, and how that could be instructive to smart growth. I've invited Ms. Locke or a staff member to attend every meeting on smart growth, which it seems this series will continue for quite a while, and also would like somebody from the City of Ormond Beach to attend. On Monday, October 28th, Ms. Locke will be a member of a panel representing Volusia County on the issue of sustainability and smart growth at our Civil Discourse meeting. We will also have a representative from St. John's Water District and would like to have someone from the City of Ormond Beach on the panel as well. Katrina Locke is responsible for implementing the Sustainability Act for Volusia County, which came out of a very precise and in-depth study done by the county in 2012. Whatever one's philosophy is about climate issues, it appears that Ormond Beach would benefit from studying and reflecting on what we can do in this important area, as it will affect growth and development, whether we pay attention to it or not. Will you appoint someone to be on this panel? And I have sent emails to all of you. Thank you,
Linda. Appreciate that. We move to agenda item number 7, approval of the minutes. The minutes have been sent to the commission for review and posted to the city's website as well. These are the minutes from the city commission meeting of August 20th, 2019. Any additions, corrections, or deletions?
I move approval of the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. We'll show that passing unanimously, 7A. And that brings us to agenda item number 8. It's a community redevelopment agency item. The City Commission in Ormond Beach serves as the community redevelopment agency of the city and must review this item and make a recommendation as the CRA. Therefore, we will recess the City Commission meeting and at this time call the CRA meeting to order. And as chairman of the CRA, I will open the public hearings, and we are on 8A.
Resolution number 2019-163, a resolution of the City Commission, also acting as the Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Ormond Beach, Florida, authorizing the execution of a building improvement grant agreement with Hijaja LLC, authorizing a waiver of the shared parking and indemnification requirements related thereto, and setting forth an effective date. This is resolution number 2019-163, read by title only.
Thank you, Colby. The only card I have is from the applicant, if necessary. Any questions for the applicant? Any discussion? Deputy Mayor Kent.
Yes. I'm glad the county chair is still in the audience because Ormond Beach should be the poster child of how to operate a CRA. And, you know, our redevelopment program that we've had in place now for at least 15 years has been wildly successful, our beautification program that we have. So I would, at this time, well, I'll wait and see if any other comments, but then I'd make a recommendation for the City Commission to approve this.
Thank you, Commissioner. And any other comments?
At this time, I'd make a recommendation, a motion for approval for our City Commission.
Is there a second?
A second.
Good deal. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. We'll show that passing unanimously. Recommendation to the City Commission for approval of 8A. And at this time, we will close the public hearings and reconvene the City Commission meeting. And that brings us to the consent agenda. The action proposed is stated for each item on the consent agenda. Unless a City Commissioner removes an item, no discussion on individual items will occur, and a single motion will approve all items. Does anyone wish to remove any items from the consent agenda? I have cards on 9AB and 9O. So if we can show those pulled. Anything else? Any other consent agenda items? If we could have a motion to approve the consent agenda absent A, B, and O.
I move to approve the consent agenda minus A, B, and O.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? Colby, please call the vote.
Commissioner Littleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Selby?
Yes.
Commissioner Kent?
Yes.
Commissioner Persis?
Yes.
Mayor Partington?
Yes. That brings us to 9A, or well, actually 9O. Oh. Thank you.
Resolution number 2019-168. 90, a resolution accepting a proposal from McKim & Creed, Inc. for construction administration services regarding the water treatment plant lime sludge dewatering improvements. Yep.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
My glasses are not working very well
Okay.
this evening. It was 9P.
P, okay.
And when I finally took a look at it on the agenda, that made a lot more sense.
I will restart.
Randy, do you need us to correct that in any way?
I think as long as there's a general consensus up here to acknowledge the correction for the record, that you'll be fine.
Just
So
a clerical error.
you can go back and take you through that tortured exercise if you want, but if you're all comfortable with it, that's fine.
I acknowledge that he meant item P.
Great. We'll call it a mayoral error, mayoral eyesight error. Thank you, Colby. I'm sorry about that.
Sure. Resolution number 2019-169, a resolution authorizing execution of a lease agreement between the city and the Ormond Memorial Art Museum, Inc., and setting forth an effective date. This is resolution number 2019-169, as read by title only.
Thank you. And I have one card, Nancy Lohman.
Hi, good evening, commissioners and city staff. And
Nancy, in 16 years, that's a first.
Oh.
And never has somebody come up and the audience applauded before they spoke. It's a first I've ever seen,
gosh.
ever.
Well, thank you. That's because I think you were also very excited about what we're about to accomplish as a wonderful public-private project that we're about to engage in. Thank you so much for your support for 73 years. This city of Ormond Beach has appreciated the fact that we have this amazing, lush oasis of gardens and the beautiful, beautiful museum. And our plans are, of course, to keep those gardens protected, renovate the existing building on the footprint with a structure that will allow us to grow and expand our programming. We're super excited. We have an amazing board of passionate, caring individuals who bring a lot of creativity and energy to our museum. So I just wanted to thank you all very much for your support.
Thank you. Any questions for Nancy? Let's see. Yep. Do you want to get the motion on the floor first? Okay. I just need a motion and a second for discussion purposes.
I move approval of resolution number 2019-169.
Second.
Great. And Commissioner Persis.
Yes, I just want to, before we call the vote, I just want to acknowledge people out in the audience that are here in support of this project. So when I call your name, please stand up, because I know you all have worked so very hard. Of course, Nancy, please stand up, and her husband Lowell are here, right here in the audience. Victoria Jones, Joni Hunt, Carol and Steve Farmer, Jeff and Shelley Sweet, Philip Shapiro and his wife Marcia are here. Kathy Crotty and Larry Bartlett, they're standing in the back. Pete and Susan Anderson, Dr. Tom Brown and Tony Slick, and of course the amazing director Susan Richmond and her husband Steve. So I just want to acknowledge all of you.
Great. Colby, please call the vote.
Commissioner Selby.
Yes.
Commissioner Kent.
Yes.
Commissioner Persis.
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton.
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. And thank you very much. We will move to 9AB.
This is a disposition item for a CPI rate adjustment request from Waste Pro of Florida.
All right. And one card from Ken DeForest.
Mayor and Commissioners, thank you very much for letting me talk to you tonight. I'm Ken DeForest. I'm the Division Manager for Waste Pro for Volusia County. Before you tonight is a request that I submitted for an annual Consumer Price Index adjustment for our service prices. As you know, the CPI adjustments are designed to allow us to keep up with inflation and other costs and increases that affect our operations. I think you know our employees work really hard, and they do a great job on behalf of the city. Just in the last few weeks, we've been impacted by the hurricane. Our crews have picked up over 700,000 pounds of storm debris, most of it by hand. I want to be in a position to provide raises and improve benefits to those employees. And we can only do that if we can keep up with cost increases affecting our industry. The memorandum in your packet gives a good recap of our request and the impacts associated with it. But there is some additional information I'd like to give you. Over the last few years, Waste Pro has been impacted by some very significant costs. You know, as of April 1st, the city started paying for recycling processing, and we appreciate that change and the city's commitment to recycling. But for most of 2018, we absorbed those costs. Waste Pro paid to process the city's recycling, and the cost was over $200,000. Likewise, with going back another year or two, Hurricane Matthew and Irma, we experienced much higher than normal disposal costs for over $150,000 that we absorbed. Even the CPI index that we use is a general index for all urban consumers. The 1.86% request takes into account price increases for regular consumer items like bread and eggs and milk. Those items don't really apply to our operations. There's an index that's specific to our industry for garbage and trash. That increase was over 5% last year. It was 5.13%. And for the last 3 years, it was 9%, about double, almost double of what we received through the contract CPI index. I tell you this not to complain, but to point out that we face significant cost increases every year, and we need the city's help to support our ongoing operations. I believe we have a strong partnership with the city. We look forward to working with the city for many years, and I appreciate your time tonight. And I would ask that you consider granting our CPI increase.
Thank you.
If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions for Ken? Staff recommended denial.
Yes.
But in fairness to you, I wanted to pull the item and at least give you a chance to be heard and have the commission discuss it. It's a small percentage CPI adjustment, 1.86%, and I'm not sure if, you know, we have a great partnership, a great working relationship. I'm not sure if it was clear in the agenda item the costs that you did absorb through the hurricanes that were not reimbursed through FEMA. And one of the things you pointed out to me, was it $17.21 we pay for 2 pickups a week? Do you recall? We spoke earlier this morning.
I think it's a little higher than that. I had that number. I think it's $17.44 maybe.
And other cities, municipalities, counties are paying 18 something for one pickup.
$17.22, and the county just went out to bid, so they have a different service level than us. The low bidder was this is net of the franchise fees. The low bidder was $18.97, only once a week pickup, not unlimited yard waste, and I think those are the two major differences. So I think you're getting a good deal from us, and we want to continue to be able to provide the good service that we do.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Any other questions, comments? I just need a motion one way or the other.
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to make sure that Waste Pro does indeed receive the CPI rate adjustment that they're asking for. I think it's a great partnership that we have with them. When I tell you I have 0 complaints from residents, and I appreciate the hard work your men and women do every day in Ormond Beach. I think this is a reasonable request, and therefore that's why I make the motion to approve it.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? Commissioner Selby.
Yeah. You all know that I have been outspoken against this in the past, and the reason is that this is it's not in the contract. The vendor, Waste Pro, has the opportunity to request an increase, but we're not obligated to pay it. And that bothered me in the past. There were 2 or 3 other contracts, if I'm not mistaken, that we did approve under very similar circumstances on the consent agenda. And I brought this up when we were negotiating the extension of the contract with Waste Pro, which goes into effect, I guess, October 1, right?
That's correct.
We fixed the recycling problem, and then we extended your contract for 5 years. So in light of that, I will be voting for this, for the CPI increase. But I got to say that I don't understand. I mean, if we're going to do this, we should put it in the contract that they're going to get the CPI increase, not that they have to request it and we have the opportunity to deny it. So in the future, you know, when this current 5-year contract is over, I would hope that we would put that kind of language in instead of making it voluntary the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Selby. Commissioner
I'll say
Littleton.
one thing. Thank you, Mayor. It's about a philosophy. It's in 5 years, do we want to see a big jump to our residents and sort of shocks them, or do we want to see a slow, incremental raise so they can adjust every year? And that's a philosophy I adhere to, and that's why I support this.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Kent.
Thank you. And just to Commissioner Selby's comment, and the reason, Commissioner Selby, I would be against that, putting that in the contract that it's guaranteed, is because of what happened in the past when the recession hit and the commission voted to give ourselves a 10% pay cut, and we weren't giving our employees anything. So if something like that were to happen again, I wouldn't want you to have in your contract where it's guaranteed you're going to get it. There's so many different variables, and it depends on so many different things. So I think back about times like that, and that's the main reason why I wouldn't be okay putting it in the contract like worded like that. I like the way it is.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Kent. Anyone else?
Yes, sir. Expenditures over $25,000, we'll need to prepare a resolution to authorize that, so we can bring that back at your next commission meeting.
All right. So you just need a motion
to direct. You don't even need to give us a
staff,
motion. I
you've
think
already
the staff
got the direction.
We'll just prepare that, bring it back. But if you want to make a motion to direct staff to do that, then that's fine.
Put it on consent
Yeah.
Shows up on consent next time.
next time.
Do you want to amend your motion just to make it a
I
staff
could. I
direction?
was almost sitting here thinking to be perfect time to waive the Thompson rule and make this happen. But, you know, I mean, I'm a little perplexed about that. I thought we could make that happen tonight, but I guess because staff's recommendation for denial. So I will go ahead and amend the motion just to state that City Manager, please put this on the next agenda, on the consent agenda, because it's going to be over $25,000 for a CPI rate adjustment for Waste Pro.
Are you?
And I second that motion.
Okay. Good deal. Colby, please call the vote.
Commissioner Kent.
Yes.
Commissioner Persis.
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton.
Yes.
Commissioner Selby.
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. Thank you very much. And that concludes the consent agenda. Thank you, Ken, for being here.
Thank you very much.
Any commissioners who wish to comment on any item on the consent agenda, now would be the appropriate time to do so. Commissioner Littleton.
I did want to thank the commission for item Z, which is a travel package for myself and the mayor. I wanted to thank you for your support on that.
Got it. Good deal. Anything else? If not, we'll move to 10A. These are public hearings, and I will open the public hearings and ask the city clerk to read the title.
Ordinance number 2019-30, an ordinance annexing certain real properties into the city of Ormond Beach, said properties being generally located along the east side of Interstate 95, south of Halifax Plantation Subdivision, west of Old Dixie Highway, and north of U.S. Highway 1, consisting of approximately 1,055.36 plus or minus acres, redefining the territorial boundaries of the city of Ormond Beach to include the properties, setting forth zoning privileges and obligations regarding the properties, redesignating the boundaries of Zone 1 of the city of Ormond Beach to include the properties, providing for transmission, providing for severability, and setting forth an effective date. This is the first reading of ordinance number 2019-30, read by title only.
Thank you, Colby. And I will ask Planning Director Stephen Spraker to speak on 10A.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Spraker. I'm with the Planning Department. This is a request for annexation of the Plantation Oaks area shown in the aerial. It also includes the Plantation Oaks Boulevard right-of-way. Plantation Oaks subdivision was reviewed and approved by Volusia County starting in 2002. It consists of 1,577 residential units, so that's a density of approximately 1.5 units per acre. Beginning in 2015, the City of Ormond Beach was identified as a utility provider. There was an annexation agreement signed to provide utilities. The property owner has constructed the improvements for a phase of the project. So they've brought water and sewer to the site. They've constructed the roadways. The site is a private development, so basically everything within their property is owned and maintained by the subdivision. There are not public streets, so the city would not have maintenance of those streets. The property is now contiguous with the City of Ormond Beach. They have finished their phase with Volusia County, and they are now petitioning the city to annex it. Following the annexation, if approved, there would be comprehensive plan and zoning map changes. The approvals given to the subdivision would be no different than it was in Volusia County, so their exact development order would be incorporated into the city's land development code, and if there were any changes, that would go back through the plan development process. This is a map of the proposed development of the entire subdivision. Again, they are doing phases of it. They've done the phase right in this area, which is approximately 427 units, and additional phases would come online as the market. Staff recommends approval. We believe it's consistent with the Florida statute, and the applicant is here to address the commission if they have any questions.
Thank you, Stephen. Any questions for Stephen?
Yeah, I have a question. Can you put the map back up? Yeah. Stephen, it was a meeting or two ago, I think the property owner that owns that is a part owner in one of those enclaves just above.
I think he's in this channel area.
I don't know. Let's see what's north here. North is that way. Okay, so at the south end of the site, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. So is the way we avoided the enclave by that little strip of land that's not being annexed that gets up to that enclave?
So in order to do the annexation of Plantation Oaks, we were required to amend the interlocal service boundary agreement. So there are approximately 13 parcels that are not owned and not part of Plantation Oaks. So Volusia County required us to amend the interlocal service boundary agreement. So those 13 parcels are not being annexed in the city. They'll remain unincorporated Volusia County. County staff is still researching Mr. Green's statements. I haven't got any information back, so we'll wait and see if the county has anything that required them to provide water and sewer and access to that site.
Okay. And so that little strip that leads from the unincorporated area to his land, or I guess there's two parcels there, is what prevents an enclave, right?
Right. There's an unimproved right-of-way that accesses property.
Oh, okay.
So basically those enclaves are allowed to stay through that interlocal service boundary agreement.
Okay, great.
One thing, Mitch.
Commissioner Littleton.
For Plantation Oaks Boulevard, the city would be responsible for maintaining that road, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Stephen. Any questions for the applicant?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Parker Minchenberg, 1729 Ridgewood Avenue. I have Ronnie Bledsoe, my co-owner. The piece of property, Dwight, you were speaking of, it is accessed by an existing county right-of-way. So I think there were some allegations that we were agreeing to extend utilities and pavement, and Ronnie and I are both here to say we've never really represented that. So we're excited about coming into the city of Ormond. We've got our first phase up and going, and we have plans for future development. Excited about doing it in Ormond. So we're here to answer any questions we can if you have any.
Great. Any questions? Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right. I just need a motion and a second on 10A.
I move approval of ordinance number 2019-30.
Second.
Any discussion?
I would like to say one thing.
Commissioner Littleton.
So we're annexing this, and why would we bring this into Ormond Beach? Well, I've seen the development that's happening on South Clyde Morris and Williamson, like around Aberdeen. That's all Daytona Beach. I've seen south of Granada, west of 95. It's Daytona Beach. We have no control, basically. And a few years ago, we didn't have control of the new North US 1 corridor. And this, I would rather us have control, us protect the gateway to not only Ormond Beach, but all of Volusia County. I want our residents to have a beautiful gateway. And so that's why I support this.
Thank you, Commissioner Littleton. Commissioner Selby.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I support this for a couple of reasons. Number one, housing options. We're pretty monolithic in Ormond Beach. There are very few. We have a high percentage of single-family detached homes. We don't have a lot of multifamily. We don't have a lot of other housing options. And this is an option that a lot of people, especially in the state of Florida, but all over the country, have chosen to live in. And I don't see any reason not to do it. Much has been made of the notion that manufactured housing communities don't pay their fair share in real estate taxes, and that's just flat out not true. It's taxed. It is an income property because the owners own the land and they lease the land, much like a shopping center. The individual stores, they don't own their business. They don't own their real estate. They rent the space, and the owner of the shopping center pays real estate taxes on the entire property. So I think it's, and in fact, a lot of manufactured homes are lower value and might be 100% exempt. Not in this particular development, but in other developments if they were real estate only. So I support this because it's a high-quality project with two individuals who've lived in our community for a very long time. They're doing a fantastic job, and the people who live there love living there, and they're going to be great residents of the city of Ormond Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Colby, please call the vote.
Commissioner Persis.
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton.
Yes.
Commissioner Selby.
Yes.
Commissioner Kent.
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. And that brings us to 10B.
Ordinance number 2019-34, an ordinance amending Chapter 3, Performance Standards, Article 4, Sign Regulation, Section 3-47, Business Premise Signs of the City of Ormond Beach Land Development Code, to allow through the special exception process electronic changeable copy signs for the display of retail prices of gasoline, repealing all inconsistent ordinances or parts thereof, providing for severability, and setting forth an effective date. This is the first reading of ordinance number 2019-34, read by title only.
Thank you, Colby, and I'll ask Steve Spraker, our planning director, to speak on this item as well.
This item is a land development code amendment for electronic changeable copy sign. It's based in the Florida statutes that gives preferential treatment to gasoline prices on signs. These are examples of electronic changeable copy signs in other jurisdictions. What is before you tonight is the framework of how to allow these signs. The amendment proposes to allow these through a special exception process, so there's an opportunity to review their criteria before the Planning Board and the City Commission. The Planning Board did recommend approval of the amendment 4-1, and then staff is also recommending approval. Individual properties would need to apply for special exceptions, so tonight you're approving the framework, and then you'll see additional applications if you approve the ordinance.
Thank you, Stephen. Any questions? Commissioner Selby.
First of all, what makes it electronic?
The prices of the gasoline. They're a digital display.
Okay, so that makes it electronic, and the alternative would be those like numbers that a human goes out there, those ugly sort of numbers.
Yes, sir.
That's allowed.
That's allowed by right.
Okay, and then it's changeable. That's the other thing.
Correct.
And what is the frequency at which it can be changed?
There is no. I mean, they can change gas. My understanding is they change it daily. You know, if they change it early in the morning. So there's not in the ordinance, I believe, in the general ordinance, it's one change per minute, but I wouldn't expect this on gas station prices. So they're really, once per minute is the answer.
And is this, what we're doing, is this restricted exclusively just to gasoline retailers?
Correct.
Okay, so it doesn't apply
to any other use.
Okay. I mean, this seems like an awful lot to do about nothing.
Well, it is and it isn't. The problem is the Florida legislature created a piece of special legislation that applies to corporations that have trademarks and those sorts of things. It also applies specifically to gas stations. And it preempts, once again, here's the bad preemption word, the ability of local government to impose regulations with respect to those entities. As it relates to gas stations, local government is preempted from imposing a regulation that is perceived to restrict the sightline visibility of signage. And the problem with the statute is it carves out an exception. It's not, and my opinion, it's not content neutral. So we kind of went through this with our sign ordinance. So a lot of local jurisdictions have been struggling with how do you treat these types of requests as they come forward, because many gas stations are claiming now that, oh, well, we can just go out there and put up a digital copy sign, and you cannot restrict us from doing that. Stephen and I took a good look at the statute. We had a request by an applicant. The suggestion was that the statute applied carte blanche, and we could not regulate that. That was not my opinion. So what we wanted to do was to create a framework, a regulatory framework by which these applications could come forward, and then through the planning board process and this commission, you could determine on a case-by-case study whether it posed a public safety issue, a sightline issue, for which a special exception could be granted. And so that gives you some measure of control over these things. So it's not going to apply to every commercial establishment citywide. It's narrowly constructed for an intended purpose. It's kind of silly, but there's a purpose behind it. So, but you can thank the legislature for that.
Commissioner Persis.
Yeah, Stephen, just to make sure we all are clear, this is not a neon sign.
Correct.
It's not a neon sign.
So
okay.
These are examples of other jurisdictions. So this is the type of sign that would be applied for.
Okay. It would look just like that.
Look just like that.
So those are like LED, I would assume,
LEDs.
right? LEDs.
Correct. They're digital prices for the gas only.
And they don't flash. They don't flash. Okay.
And the changeability you mentioned, I think once a minute.
Right, but I mean, gas station prices don't change once a minute.
No,
I mean that's our general ordinance. I mean, my understanding, and the applicant can probably help me out a little bit here, is they change. You know, the same frequency a reader board would change.
Yeah, no, I get that. So my question really is that part of the state statute that they have to be allowed to change at least once a minute? Or
No.
is that in our ordinance?
It's in our ordinance.
Okay, so why did we make it at such a short interval? Because clearly a gas station doesn't need to do that. Why don't we make it like once a day or once every 12 hours or instead of once a minute?
If that's what the pleasure of the commission is,
okay.
There are general electronic changeable copy standards that include the destination Daytona area. So those are the general standards. So if the commission feels it more appropriate to limit this for gas stations, you're more than welcome to do that.
And just so I'm clear, so the current existing standards for destination Daytona is it can change once a minute?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a little further explanation on that. That was approved in the county. It was a county approved development, and then it was subsequently annexed into the city. It was the electronic signage was a permitted use, I believe. Was it a permitted use in the county, Stephen? It was not a permitted use. It was not allowed use by special exception here in Ormond Beach. So when we annexed them in, they essentially were grandfathered in. So we had to create a special category for them, and we did so in kind of an entertainment zoning district. You can't compare that with this. This is specifically limited to gas stations. It's a product of our great Florida legislature. That's about all that I can say about that. Because what was happening was you were having gas stations across the state that would assert that they had the right to put up a gas station without any regulatory control. And it was creating a lot of problems for jurisdictions in terms of whether they could regulate it, if so, how, what might they have to do. So we're trying to stay ahead of that curve a little bit. This is a fairly new statute. It's only been on the books for about 3 years. It's not been challenged yet, to my knowledge, which is a bit surprising. but this will give us the ability to make sure that if you have any applicants that come forward, that they're going to, it's going to be reviewed and developed according to Ormond Beach standards. So, if that helps.
So I'd be okay with they can lower the price once a minute, but like, how about like raise the price only like once a month?
I second that.
That's right.
Any other questions for Stephen or Randy? So at this point, I guess we need a motion, and let me. Glenn, you're welcome to if you want to. I'm more like once an hour or once every 3 hours. I guess I could go up to 6 hours, just to give them flexibility if gas prices did change by chance that much. I'm not for once a minute. I was stopped eastbound on ISB at Nova last week, and there's a gas station there on the south side of ISB where it flashes like a metronome every other second, and I thought we cannot have that.
Absolutely.
That's not appropriate in our city, but certainly I agree. Commissioner Selby, I think every 3 hours or every 6 hours, something like that might be more appropriate.
I could agree with that too. I think 1 minute's too quick.
And for the record, my name is Glenn Storch. I represent the applicant in this case, and I've represented a lot of service stations, gas stations, who've basically done signs like this all across the county. You guys are the last ones that have the 1941 signs, which is nice, quaint, but not exactly safe sometimes. Usually the gas prices are changed once a day.
Okay.
So if you say 12 hours, 6 hours, I'm fine. And we could always make it a condition of the special exception itself. Because as in the wisdom, your city attorney has created a framework that allows you to now take each individual case and create conditions that are appropriate for that specific special exception. So I have no problem with when you come in here and ask for a special exception, you can say how often you can change.
Right.
And in fact, what I'll be looking for as well is a condition that this is exactly what you're getting. This is a picture of the sign. This is what you're getting, and so everyone understands that. So again, not to look at the worst case scenario, but if somebody may say, "Oh, I can put a gas price that's 4 foot tall." No, you can't. We want it consistent. We want it looking nice. We want it consistent with the ambiance of Ormond and some of our other communities. That's what's appropriate. But it's far better than those other type of signs, and that's what we're after at this point.
I appreciate that.
And so I think your special exception process will work out great.
And I appreciate the applicant, Glenn, respecting our process that Randy has set up. I mean, in theory, they could have said, we have federal law on our side, we have state law on our side, we're doing this, it's up to you to decide whether you want to challenge it. And I don't know that we would, frankly, want to be the ones to spend all those hundreds of thousands of dollars and take that hit. But I thought it was a nice approach on your part to respect the process and go through what Randy and Stephen have set up. So thank you for that.
I will tell you that all of my clients feel like they're members of the community. And so working together is the way to solve the problem.
Thank you. So, yep, we are ready for a motion.
So I'll move ordinance number 2019-34, but I would like to amend the frequency of changeability to once every 6 hours.
I second.
Is that okay, Randy?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? Colby, please call the vote.
Commissioner Littleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Selby?
Yes.
Commissioner Kent?
Yes.
Commissioner Persis?
Yes.
Mayor Partington?
Yes. And that brings us to 10C.
Ordinance number 2019-35, an ordinance amending Chapter 1, General Administration, Article 3, Definitions and Acronyms, Section 1-22, Definitions of Terms and Words of the City of Ormond Beach Land Development Code, by amending the definition tattoo parlor to provide an exemption for the application of permanent cosmetics for medical and dental purposes only, repealing all inconsistent ordinances or parts thereof, providing for severability, and setting forth an effective date. This is the first reading of ordinance number 2019-35, read by title only.
Thank you. I do not have any cards. Just need a motion and a second for discussion purposes.
Move for approval ordinance number 2019-35.
Second.
Second. Stephen, did you want to speak on this item as well?
There's one question that we were asking direction on the City Commission. Right now, personal services that do permanent cosmetics can only be in the B5 zoning district. As part of this, we're seeking clarification if the Commission would like to amend that to allow the permanent cosmetics as a personal service use. The Planning Board did recommend approval of that recommendation would require a separate land development code, but we didn't want to do it until we had direction from the City Commission.
One caveat to that.
Yes, sir.
First, the permanent cosmetic tattooing is defined under state law and regulated as tattoo. So it's a different form of tattooing. I just want to make sure that you understand, even though it's kind of treated sometimes as a separate type of use, it's not. It's still inking the body, and it's still permanent tattooing. And so I guess what Stephen is asking from a planning perspective is, do you want to create a separate application of tattoo type of regulations for permanent cosmetics? Right now they're treated the same as any tattoo parlor, right?
Correct.
So that helps.
Commissioner Selby.
Yeah, before I answer that question, I just have a couple of questions. I get medical tattooing. I understand that. I think, or some of the applications that. How does what's dental tattooing? Can you give me an example of that?
Not really. Basically, dentists are allowed to do the permanent cosmetics as part of their procedures. I don't know all the attributes that dentists would do, but I think the question that we're asking is a salon or the veranda, they want to do permanent cosmetics as part of their personal service use. Right now, the only people that could do it are in the B5 and that meet all the criteria of tattoo. Other jurisdictions have allowed the permanent cosmetics as a part of the personal services. So it would expand it and allow those salons and uses to offer those services.
So that would be like getting eyebrows tattooed
Correct.
On. You see some ladies do that.
Eyeliner.
Yeah. And what you're suggesting is that we would facilitate that happening in more places?
Correct. We would amend the definition of personal service to allow the permanent cosmetics as other jurisdictions have done.
And then, are you okay with drawing the distinction between a tattoo parlor and, what do we call it, permanent cosmetics?
I am, yes. Other jurisdictions have done it. They haven't experienced any issues, hasn't had negative impacts to their community, and it's offered more services to a wide range of customers. And we can bring it back as a land development code amendment, so we're going to give you some more information. We don't want to start a land development code without, if the commission is dead set that we're not going to do changes, we would just stop right here, and it's not allowed except in the B5.
Commissioner Persis.
I think it's a great idea. Just the way it is, and I think if something should come up later, we can look at it again. But I think I don't see any problem with it at all.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Colby, please call the vote.
Commissioner Selby.
Yes.
Commissioner Kent.
Yes.
Commissioner Persis.
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton.
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. That brings us to 10D.
Ordinance number 2019-36, an ordinance amending Chapter 2, District and General Regulations, Article 6, Overlay Districts, Section 2-71, Historic Districts and Landmarks of the Land Development Code by removing the property located at 71 Orchard Lane, the Break-In Cabin, from the Ormond Beach Historical Landmarks list, repealing all inconsistent ordinances or parts thereof, providing for severability, and setting forth an effective date. This is the first reading of ordinance number 2019-36, read by title only.
All right, Stephen, I'll ask you to give us some input on this item as well.
The city's local landmark list is contained within the Land Development Code. So as properties either go on or off the list, they're required to go through this Land Development Code process. The request to remove this property from the local landmark list has gone to the Historic Landmark Preservation Board that recommended approval, has gone to the Planning Board, which has recommended approval, and staff is also recommending approval to the City Commission.
Thank you. I don't have any cards.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I just,
Commissioner Selby.
I mean, I sort of want to say I'm disappointed this is happening, but not really, because, this is such a unique house being built out. I mean, who would ever even think to build a house out of palm logs, I mean, typically a palm log, like, basically just sort of disintegrates in about 6 months once you cut it down. Anyway, but when you look at the physical condition of the place and the fact that, it's unable to be restored, I think this is perfectly fine. I support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Colby, please call the vote.
Commissioner Kent.
Yes.
Commissioner Persis.
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton.
Yes.
Commissioner Selby.
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. 10E.
Resolution number 2019-175, a resolution authorizing the execution and issuance of a development order for a special exception regarding the Window World store located at 906 North U.S. Highway 1, within the larger parent parcel located at 900 North U.S. Highway 1, and being situated within the B8 Commercial Zoning District, allowing permanent outdoor storage for a period of 18 months, establishing conditions and expiration date of approval, and setting forth an effective date. This is resolution number 2019-175, read by title only.
Thank you, Colby. Stevens Breaker, Planning Director.
This is a request for a special exception to allow outdoor activities, specifically outdoor storage. The property is located at 900 and 906 North US 1. The site was a former bar that was redeveloped into Window World. There have been some activities on the property which didn't get permits. Staff attempted to work with the property owner to gain compliance. Once we realized we were not going to be able to, they went before the special magistrate, who then set basically conditions of when to come into compliance. One of those conditions was the location of outdoor storage. Today they have some containers out there that house the items that they use as part of their business. They have applied for a planned business development to build a warehouse structure on the property. So they are trying to gain compliance, but their request tonight is to basically allow 6 containers behind the building. The building is right here. This would be US 1. So they're seeking to move them from their existing location on this side of the property onto behind the building, so they would be hidden. This is the site plan that was included as part of your application. So again, they would take the trailers that are located here and they would move them behind the building. These are pictures of the existing trailers on the site. There are 4 sets of code enforcement violations that are working their way through the process. The signage has come into compliance. The outdoor storage is before the commission as a special exception. If it is not granted, they would have to remove the outdoor storage by September 23rd or face fines. And then they are working to complete their interior build-out, both permitting and the construction. So since taking to the special magistrate, the business owner has started to work to gain compliance. The planning board was concerned. They struggled to encourage a new business into the city, but yet to gain compliance. So they took the original 3 years requested for the outdoor storage and reduced it down to 18 months. That would give the applicant an opportunity. The issue with the site is Zone B8, which would not allow a warehouse by right, which would cause them to go through the planned business development. It would have to come before Planning Board and City Commission. Staff adopted the Planning Board's recommendation of 18 months, and I believe the applicant is here if you have questions.
Thank you, Stephen. Any questions for Stephen? All right. Commissioner Selby.
Mayor, is it appropriate to ask the applicant to come up?
Sure.
Is that Mr. Tillman? Is that who the applicant is? The applicant, Mr. Tillman?
evening. I'm Brian Tillman. I'm the owner of said property. Thanks for letting me speak regarding this resolution. Originally, can you cue? I'm not sure who's in control of the pictures. Can you cue the lot? I think one more back. That helps. Originally, when I purchased the property, as Stephen said, it was the Kickstart Saloon. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this area, US 1, more than likely you are. Very close to Nova, where it comes out in US 1. Looking at the property in the state that it was these 2 years ago, I thought that we would be able to make a vast improvement on that corridor. That it was a business not so unlike AT&T, who was next door, and that we could make some improvements and of course suit our business purposes in the community at large. It's obviously gotten more complicated than that. One of the first things we did upon purchasing the property was pull a permit to replace the windows naturally, and also to do the fence along the front of the property that obscures everything that's in the back from view from the roadside. We are asking for this outdoor storage approval for this very short 18 months as we go through the other process of zoning and figuring out what other alternatives there are. We are very glad to be in Ormond Beach. This is a great city for us. It's right in the middle of our area, and we've got a great client base here. This is where we want to be. I wish the process had been simpler, but I think everyone is doing their best, including me, and the city's been more than patient with me. They've kind of worked through the process with me, and we are working hard to come into compliance and find our place here in this community, on this corridor.
Commissioner Selby.
Yeah, so, Mr. Tillman, first of all, your business there is a major improvement over the saloon that was there before, okay, and the motel. I think the motel might have been torn down at some point.
I thought I was heading in the right direction.
However, this is the part I don't get. Yes, sir. You're in the construction industry, and you have, I don't know, I got a list today because I requested it. Mm-hmm. You might have, it looks like at least 20 active permits out there for what you do, windows, okay? And yet there are 4 things that you didn't pull a permit for. An office building was completed without a building permit. You're in violation on that. You engage in business. You didn't have an occupational license, business tax receipt.
I know.
You put the storage buildings in, the 4 storage units in without a permit for that. It's not even zoned for that. And you installed 2 lighted signs without a permit. I don't get the disconnect between somebody who's in the construction industry who pulls permits all the time and then goes and does all these things, and some of these have been outstanding for a very long time, and now we're supposed to just look the other way and say, well, give me another 18 months and maybe I'll get this thing worked out. It's just help me to understand
sure.
that.
I don't. I don't agree with that characterization, but I understand there's some legitimate questions there. As I said, when we occupied the space, the scope of the very minor interior remodeling, being a contractor, was I didn't realize we were crossing a permitting threshold until I was told sometime later that there is a permit required for a change of use. So that was new to me. And frankly, I've been through this process before in other areas here in the state of Florida, and I just hadn't run across that. And there's, of course, a lot more to it. On the sign, the staff of the city was more, there were temporary signs up. We had discussed it. It wasn't that I wasn't in some sort of contact with the city folks about what we were doing, where we wanted to go. I got professionals involved. I got drawings made, and we just it just didn't quite come together. And I think, as Stephen said, as things got clarified, and certainly for me, then I started to understand exactly the way this has to lay out, exactly what needs to be done. And so it wasn't for, it wasn't trying to be, I don't know, sneaky about it, or just being really straightforward. I don't know. Yeah, there was two other questions in there I don't think I addressed, but it was with good intention.
Any other questions?
I have one. So the trailers are cargo containers, correct? Like I would see on the ship, right? Okay. What's the purpose, the use of the single-family home on the property?
Right now, it's being rented.
So someone's living there.
Correct.
Okay. And
which is part of what makes things complicated. It's what I've learned thus far. It's a non-conforming property. I've even learned vernacular. It's a non-conforming property, and it's the path is not as clear. And this is formed up not just for myself, but I think the city is their vision is gotten together more too over time. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I also saw when I drove by today looked like sort of a manufactured home type trailer or building right there in the front. Like it was definitely higher than the fence when I drove by. Is that another trailer? Or?
I think that's the container you're seeing on the other side of the fence, and part of the reason we're proposing to move them behind the building directly. I think you just saw the top. I'm guessing. I think you just saw the top of that trailer.
Okay. That's only questions I have.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Just have some comments.
Deputy Mayor Kent.
Welcome to Ormond Beach.
Yeah.
And then with that, I'll say, it's Ormond Beach. It's that.
Yeah, I've learned it.
Yeah,
20 years of permitting here, and I've learned it.
We're not one of our sister cities.
Understood.
And there's a reason.
Right.
I'm glad. That being said, I drove by today as well, and I saw the containers behind the fence, and the fence has some shielding up on it as well. The piece that I'm bothered by is in the staff report that says, and I quote, "The business owner has shown a lack of action in resolving the continued code enforcement issues."
I'm not going to disagree with that. It's really.
I appreciate that honesty. I'm going to tell you, I do. Yeah. I appreciate that.
And as I mentioned before, the city's been more than patient with me. It's taken some time for the scope of the requirements to come more into focus and for me to understand better. So I appreciate everybody's patience with it. I'll just say that when I spoke with the magistrate, and since that time, most of what we're talking about, most of the items that are listed have been resolved. We're moving in a very positive direction, and I'd like to continue that.
Yeah, and I want you to be positive, and I want you to be wildly successful, but I want you to follow our rules.
Of course.
That's a big part.
No, and I get it, and as I said, it just took me a while to understand the rules, and get the right people involved, and for this to come into focus. Since that time, and I know it's getting late, I'm sorry, but since that time, since mid-July, most of everything that is on that list has been resolved. That's the direction I want to keep going. I'm asking for this 18 months so that the other process that one of a couple of processes we're in can work itself out. And whatever the conclusion is from that, either way, we're on a net positive. This was the Kickstart Saloon. it's not anymore. There are 30 jobs there now. This is a good-looking building with a positive impact on the community. We've got a long track record of serving the citizens of Ormond Beach. Long before that building was even, before we were ever looking at it, before it had window wood on it. So, I just want to continue to do that.
I have a question for Stephen. Stephen. To our planning director, so what I just heard from the applicant is that, most of the issues are all resolved. Is that accurate?
So he's got 4 code violations. The bottom one has absolutely been resolved, and it's in compliance. Getting the interior built out is still ongoing. They were given to July 25th. They still don't have a permit. They have been resubmitting, just haven't been able to answer the comments. So they're still struggling, but there's a lot more action than there was when it was just staff trying to gain compliance.
So of the 4, one's been resolved. Is that what I'm hearing?
One's been resolved. The outdoor storage is at the discretion of the commission.
Okay.
Item 2 can't be, which is one of the first things that...
Correct. We will not issue a business tax receipt until the interior building permit is complete.
And
So,
that would have, of course, that was the first thing we did.
Can you speak on the mic?
Once we occupied the buildings.
You need to speak in the microphone.
Thank you.
And the first thing, some of the first actions that were taken before we actually occupied the building was to go get the BTR, which we have in every other one of our locations, and to do the window replacement permit, to the fencing permit, etc. So it's not like, once again, our intentions here were good. We're just trying to follow the same process that we've been through a couple of times. It's different here. That's a very unique property. I think it would be a challenge for anyone.
Just a point of clarification, maybe for you, Stephen. So there was a BTR, there was a business tax receipt, and
applied for. But there's been a change of use from a bar to an office, which requires certain building improvements. So the building official does not feel comfortable releasing the business tax receipt, granting occupancy until those changes have been inspected, permitted, and completed.
Was that done early on? I mean, was that done prior to him opening for business, or was that done?
It was done fairly early on, but there was an identification that there was a change of use. So, yeah, there was an application. So those first 2 are really interrelated.
Commissioner Persis.
Stephen, I have a question. The first one, the interior build out with no building permits, it says fine if not in compliance, $250 per day. Is that ongoing right now?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Okay. I think we're clear on the permit. I think so.
All right. Anything else you want to tell us, Mr. Tillman?
Oh, I can go on and on. Is there any other questions you guys have?
I have one more. Do you
Littleton.
plan on building a warehouse there for the storage?
For the outdoor storage, yes, sir.
Do you have a sort of general location on the property?
Yeah, if you kindly, we've had a few meetings with city staff about where that should be, and it basically would be right behind the existing building.
So kind of where the yellow is, the yellow box is.
Yeah, actually, yeah. I don't know that it would be that close, but something where everybody can agree that this is what's going to work for everybody. But yeah.
Okay, thank you. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. You can grab a seat. We just need a
Appreciate your patience. Thank you.
Yep. Motion and a second.
I guess I have one more question, if that's okay for Stephen. What if we take no action, or we turn this down? What happens then?
Then the special master action would hold. So that would be September 23rd. They would have to remove the outdoor storage or face a fine. The planning board discussion, which I thought was a really good discussion, is the goal here is to gain compliance, and that's what's been drilled in my head through code enforcement. So, they were trying to establish a short time frame to give them an opportunity to come in compliance. Because by removing the storage, then it's going to have a dramatic impact on their business. They're going to have to relocate or do something else. The site that they purchased doesn't exactly fit their use. So they've done the outdoor storage to manage until they can get a building. So it's a policy decision, but the planning board decided to give them 18 months, let them have the shot. If they don't do it, well then, basically they have to remove the outdoor storage.
Okay, that helps me. Are you looking for comments from us?
Either comments, or I guess it'd be appropriate to have a motion. I mean, if we didn't agree with 18 months, can we do a year?
You do a year. The plan development will take him some time to get the engineered plans, go to planning board and city commission. Once he gets the plan development, you could extend it as part of that plan development, but that would at least show that he's making progress to coming to a final resolution.
Yeah, that's
so you could shorten the time frame.
My fear is that 18 months from now we're just going to be coming up and little or nothing has been done, and
right.
So we just I did want to comment that the fence that he put up is very attractive, and then he put the black screening in front of it to visually make it less attractive, less unattractive as you drive by, so you can't see all the junk stored back there. But so there definitely are some attempts to be in compliance.
All right. Thank you, Stephen.
I'd be willing to do a year. We could look at just give them a year.
I was thinking maybe 6 months. Personally, I mean, because I don't want to go a whole year and accomplish nothing. He's been in there since 2017.
Right, and if I could just interject, I don't think 6 months is going to give him enough time to go through the site plan board, and commission. That in order for him to get the site plan, he's going to need 3 months just for the engineer, and he's got to work through the process. So again.
So what's enough? What's enough then? You recommended 18.
Or 9 months.
9's enough.
And then he can come to you showing the
I like
plan.
9.
And if he needs an extension, I think you can decide at that point if it's appropriate.
Deputy Mayor Kent.
Yeah, so here's the quandary, is that it's a small business owner, and I think we all want him to succeed and be successful and come into compliance. At the same time, Commissioner Selby, part of this is like your life, what you do every day. And we expect business owners, if they buy something and it's not turkey tuned the way they need it, they get it turkey tuned before they open up shop and start working. So our issue is we're dealing with, we got comments from staff saying that little to none has been completed. We've got from 2017, but then on the other end, we have a small business owner that we want him to be successful. We want him, we want his employees to have a paycheck and continue doing great things. So if Stephen says that the 9 months, then I could go with that as well, as a good faith. We don't do that. I mean, that's why if everybody does what they're supposed to do, it never comes before the city commission ever. So, this is us bending, I believe, and trying to help you.
Yeah. I agree too. I feel like that. I'm concerned about the employees. I mean, bottom line, that concerns me. You might have people out of a job. And I'm a rule follower. That was my life, my career. And so I'm very hesitant, but again, my concern are the employees at the window world.
So I just need a motion, I guess, with an amendment, if that's the direction.
I'll move 2019-175, amending the time frame to 9 months instead of 18 months.
Second.
Great. Any further discussion on that? Colby, please call the vote.
Commissioner Persis.
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton.
Yes.
Commissioner Selby.
Yes.
Commissioner Kent.
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. And that brings us to 10F.
Resolution number 2019-176, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Ormond Beach, Florida, authorizing the execution of a mural ownership agreement to allow a mural to be installed on the east-facing wall of the building located at 50 West Granada Boulevard between the city, Anthony Guidice, Wivico, LLC, building owner, and Thais Franca, artist, and setting forth an effective date. This resolution is number 2019-176, read by title only.
Thank you, Colby. And I have some cards, and I also have a note that Stephen Spraker, Planning Director, wants to speak on this item as well. So, Stephen, we'll start with you.
This is our first request for a mural within our downtown overlay district. The building is located at 50 West Granada. This is the recently opened Ormond Garage restaurant. City Hall would be down here. So it's a great wall that would face the exterior of the restaurant. This is a picture of the existing wall and a picture of the proposed mural. Kind of another shot of the proposed mural. The project did go before the Arts District Committee. It was a great discussion. A lot of information was provided by the artist and kind of went through the details of the mural. They recommended approval 4-0. Staff is also recommending approval, and the applicant and artist are both here.
Great. Thank you, Stephen. Dorian, as soon as Deputy Mayor Kent is seated, we will start with you. Deputy Mayor, Stephen just kind of went through what the packet told us anyway, and that's the mural. So I figured you were up to speed on that. I just have 3 cards, Dorian, Thais, and Judith. So we'll start with Dorian Burt.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, staff. See, I was going to let this pass, but you know, this is a momentous occasion. We were cheering for the Art Museum and Ormond Beach Historical, so Ormond Main Street, the Arts District, and the historic first mural. Finally, after 18 years, Randy was happy with some language, and we get to move forward. So, there's so many great pictures of Ormond Beach and its early history. Well, we settled on this one, and I would really like you to recognize the artist. This is going to be incredible for Ormond Beach, and I really think she deserves a lot of, it's momentous. It's big.
I agree with you. And she has such a great story, and she's such a bright young entrepreneur, I think.
And she moved to Ormond Beach, and we've kept her. So
she fell in love with it. Came over the bridge.
She has great rent.
Awesome.
So will you call her up?
Absolutely. Thais Franca.
I'm really, really happy and excited to be here. I hope that with this mural, we will create a sense of pride in our city, and that's what I'm really, really hoping for, that this mural is going to bring us back in time and forward all at the same time. So that's all I'm trying to accomplish with this, and it's going to be a very large project. So if you guys see me around, just wish me luck.
Very good. Any questions for Thais? Comments? Commissioner Persis.
Oh, I just want to say I was born and raised here, and I think that mural is absolutely fabulous. Your vision was perfect for our city, and I think it's going to bring just so many people, you know, to stand in front of that mural and have their picture taken. I was here, and I'm just, you know, thrilled and just in awe of your, you know, your artistic ability. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I can't take credit for the picture. It was a team effort.
You have to paint it.
But I have to paint it. Yeah, I actually did painted one, and I brought it today if you guys want to see it.
Sure.
It was, that's an actual photograph, and I did one for... It's going to be more sepia, but this is what it would look like on a brush stroke compared to an actual photograph.
And it just really complements the Ormond Garage so much. You know, we've all been inside, and it's just a perfect fit.
Thais, can you turn around and show that to the audience just for a minute? I can see both sides. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're excited.
Can I ask a quick question? What year was the photo taken? Do we know? Wow.
somewhere in there. Somewhere in there. Next is Judith Stein on behalf of the applicant. How are you?
Hi, I'm president of the Ormond Beach Arts District, and I'll just add my 2 cents worth about how excited we are to have approved this first mural. We hope it's the first of many, and we think it's just going to be a great addition to the city.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I just need a motion and a second.
I'd like to move Resolution 2019-176.
Second.
Any discussion? Colby, please call the vote.
Commissioner Littleton.
Yes.
Commissioner Selby.
Yes.
Commissioner Kent.
Yes.
Commissioner Persis.
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. And with that, we will close the public hearings and move to 11A.
Ordinance number 2019-33, an ordinance recognizing a declaration of emergency issued by the Governor of the State of Florida, effective throughout the state, including Volusia County and the municipalities situated therein, recognizing a declaration of local emergency issued by Volusia County, effective through the county, including the municipalities therein, ratifying an emergency declaration of emergency issued by the Mayor of the City of Ormond Beach, effective throughout the city, authorizing temporary emergency administrative procedures to facilitate the provision of expeditious management of building permit applications, authorizing the issuance of on-site permits for repair or damage caused by Hurricane Dorian, providing for the waiver of permit fees associated therein, prohibiting unlicensed or unauthorized contractors from engaging in unlicensed or unauthorized activities, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for severability, and setting forth an effective date. This is the first and only reading of ordinance number 2019-33, read by title only.
Thank you, Colby. And I do not have any cards on 11A.
Move for approval.
Oh,
Second.
so we have a motion, a second, and let's take a 5-minute recess, and we'll be right back. Or will? Yeah, we will call the meeting back to order. We are on first reading of ordinances, agenda item number 11A. We had a motion and a second, which brings us to discussion or questions, if any. Seeing none, Colby, if you would, please call the vote.
Commissioner Selby.
Yes.
Commissioner Kent.
Yes.
Commissioner Persis.
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton.
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. 11B.
Ordinance number 2019-37, an ordinance of the City of Ormond Beach, Florida, amending Article 3, Firefighters Pension Trust Fund of Chapter 16, Pensions and Retirement of the Code of Ordinances, amending Section 16-43, Finances and Fund Management, Establishment and Operation of Fund, providing for severability of provisions, providing for codification, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. This is the first reading of ordinance number 2019-37, read by title only.
Thank you, Colby. I have one card, which is the applicant or the pension consultant, if needed. Any questions? Kelly, is Kelly still here? Did you want to provide any comments on this, unless there's any questions for Kelly? All right. Is there a motion and a second?
I move for approval ordinance number 2019-37.
Second.
Any discussion? Colby, please call the vote.
Commissioner Kent.
Yes.
Commissioner Persis.
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton.
Yes.
Commissioner Selby.
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. 11C.
Ordinance number 2019-38, an ordinance of the City of Ormond Beach, Florida, amending Article 1, General Employees Pension Plan of Chapter 16, Pensions and Retirement of the Code of Ordinances, amending Section 16-4, Finances and Fund Management, Establishment and Operation of Fund, providing for severability of provisions, providing for codification, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. This is the first reading of ordinance number 2019-38, read by title only.
I don't have any additional cards.
Move for approval ordinance number 2019-38.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Persis.
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton.
Yes.
Commissioner Selby.
Yes.
Commissioner Kent.
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. 11D.
Ordinance number 2019-39, an ordinance of the City of Ormond Beach, Florida, amending Article 4, Police Officers Pension Trust Fund of Chapter 16, Pensions and Retirement of the Code of Ordinances, amending Section 16-74, Finances and Fund Management, Establishment and Operation of Fund, providing for severability of provisions, providing for codification, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. This is the first reading of ordinance number 2019-39, read by title only.
Thank you, Colby. Again, no additional cards. Just need a motion in a second.
I move approval.
You do it. I'll move for approval ordinance number 2019-39.
All right. Colby, I don't know how you want to score that.
I'll take Littleton.
Rob
since
with
he
the
said it
motion,
again.
and then is there a second?
Second.
Perfect. The B, C, and D cover police, fire, and general employees. It's basically the same for each of them. And I look at this as giving them another tool in their investment toolbox. It's something that I've voted against in previous years, but things change. And with the protections, controls that have been put in place, and the general market place that's occurring at this time, I'm a little more comfortable with it at this time, but with a note of caution, because it still makes me nervous looking at what happened back in 2008, 2009. Those times for the REITs were not necessarily good times. And so with that, unless there's any other further discussion, Colby, please call the vote.
Commissioner Littleton.
Yes.
Commissioner Selby.
Yes.
Commissioner Kent.
Yes.
Commissioner Persis.
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. We move to second reading of ordinances 12A.
Ordinance number 2019-22, an ordinance amending Chapter 11, Health and Sanitation of the Code of Ordinances, by establishing a new chapter to be captioned Health, Sanitation, and Environmental Protection, by establishing Article 2, Environmental Protection, including sections thereunder to be numbered and captioned as follows. Section 11-14, Authority, Legislative Intent, Purpose. Section 11-15, Definitions. Section 11-16, Distribution and use of plastic straws and stirrers prohibited on city-owned property. Section 11-17, Exemptions. Section 11-18, Distribution and use of plastic straws and stirrers in restaurants. Section 11-19, Public Education Program, Voluntary Compliance Initiative, by prohibiting the distribution and use of plastic straws and stirrers on city property, encouraging all people, restaurants, and commercial establishments to discontinue the use of single-use plastic straws and single-use plastic stirrers to the practicable extent possible, establishing a public education and public awareness program, repealing all inconsistent ordinances or parts thereof, and setting forth an effective date. This is the second reading of ordinance number 2019-22, read by title only.
Thank you, Colby. And look, I have two cards, starting with Spring. Is it Scrocky?
My name is Spring Scrocky, and I live in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. Florida. I support Ordinance 2019-22 due to the condition of the ocean waterways and land in our community and worldwide, which are being trashed and destroyed by single-use plastics. I go to school at New Smyrna Beach High School, and every day I'm surrounded by young adults who have no idea what is going on in the world around them. This year, the school gave free reusable water bottles to all of the freshmen, and I see a bunch of freshmen like every day just using single-use plastic water bottles. And I believe that government laws are important because they help understand that these issues are real and not just like a rumor, because many like young kids or even young adults don't understand that like this is like a real problem in our world. And I feel like if the government doesn't do something about it, then they won't realize that it's a real problem and they won't do anything to help stop it.
Great.
Thank you.
Very well said. Spring, let me give you one of these. I'm going to pass these out for the commission as well. This can go with your plastic water bottle.
Yeah.
Sure. I'll pass those down. I think there's enough for everybody. The next card I have is Linda Williams.
Linda Williams, 131 Bozarby. I don't really have, I'm not here to talk about plastics, and I'm happy that we now have an ordinance that's health and sanitation and environmental protection. And I assume other things, I'm just not very familiar with the ordinances and how that works, and I wasn't here for the first one, but I'm guessing other things can go under there now since we have an ordinance that has environmental protection in it. And I'm concerned that, I really love the murals and the sense of pride we felt about that. And I'm very happy, of course, to be in Ormond Beach myself. And I want us to begin to have a sense of pride about our environment. And I hear a lot more of that now with the septic to sewer issues and what's happening with our rivers and all that. And so, but I see the inconsistencies, that we don't really study this issue and bring it forward in our efforts to make Ormond Beach a better place. So I'm asking you to look at having an environmental board and really getting down and looking at the issues rather than kind of glossing over it. On Saturday, we do have like a wonderful environmental discovery center, and on Saturday at 10, there's a program called Problems with Non-Native Species. And I see all of us talking about it, but I don't see us transferring it to, planting native species in the city. And we have some, I know, in our budget to buy some trees from, other places. And we could probably save money and water if we planted native species and took some pride in that, in being environmentally conscious. And I think it's going to take some, on your part, to come together and maybe put it on an agenda. Should we have an environmental board? A terrific study has already been done by the county, which I think somebody could come together in the city and look at and see what are we doing to our environment, and can we help it along and have a sense of pride in that as well as the murals. So I wanted to bring that to your attention with this ordinance and see if you might talk among in a meeting, if not tonight, about how to focus more on that and really look at the issues. I think we need to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. I don't want to leave you out. Since you're the second person to speak on that topic, yep. And those are the cards I have on that item. I just need a motion and a second. You should lead the motion. It's your ordinance.
I move to approve ordinance number 2019-22.
Great. Second.
Any discussion?
I would say one thing, Mayor. The education part of this ordinance, I truly love. I think that's the way we should really be going about doing this. However, the sort of banning on city property part, I can't get behind. So my vote will be the same as last time.
Understood. Anyone else? Commissioner Persis.
Yeah, I just want to say it's really exciting. My husband and I eat out a lot, and every restaurant we go to now, they have an alternative, and it's wonderful. I was at Rose Villa 2 days ago, and they had a straw. It was a paper straw, but a really high-quality paper straw that didn't get soggy, and it didn't make your beverage taste bad like they did in the old days. And so everyone's really trying to, step up and do something, and it's really very exciting. And when I go, they're like, "Look what we have!" I went to the Ormond garage, and Kevin runs up, "Look what we have! This is coming!" And everyone's just really jumping in. So I'm just very, very excited and thrilled about this ordinance.
Great. Anyone else? Joyce or Claire, I don't know, did someone want to explain about the little item that I was able to hand out tonight and what your all's use for that is going to be?
Those are recycled. They're silicone straws that we're handing out. We sent you all a education campaign that we're going to be taking to the schools, the 4th and 5th grade classes, awesome. And we'll be sharing those straws with them. And then we are going to be working with all the local groups in the community and getting the word out with that as well.
Great. And Susan, if you could show everybody, it's basically
It's a silicone straw.
in a
little
case with a keychain. And it says one less.
Yeah, one less, and that's going to be maybe our mantra here. One less straw, that will, hurt our environment. So I love it. So one less. So thank you.
Great.
Awesome.
And with that, we will call the vote.
Commissioner Selby,
Yes.
Commissioner Kent,
Yes.
Commissioner Persis,
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton,
No.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. And that brings us to 13A.
Resolution number 2019-138, a resolution authorizing the execution of change order number 1 to that contract awarded to tankrehab.com LLC regarding the water treatment plant elevated water tank rehabilitation project by increasing the contract price by $30,000, increasing the contract time by 135 days, and setting forth an effective date. This is resolution number 2019-138, read by title only.
Thank you, Colby. I do not have any cards on this item, but I will ask City Engineer Sean Finley to give us a very brief presentation.
Thank you very much. Sean Finley, City Engineer for City of Ormond Beach. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to revisit this item this evening. Providing you some more additional information regarding the proposal that the city staff requested of Tank Rehab to do this additional work and assist with the completion of this tank rehabilitation project. Tonight I brought with me Kevin Lee to provide some additional information and insight on this requested work, the background of the project, the original scope of work, as well as the work that was bid with that project, number 2018-11. Kevin's a registered professional engineer in the state of Florida with Mead Hunt and Associates. They are currently assisting the city by performing construction services and administration for oversight for this project. And with that,
Kevin, I'm going to ask you to keep it brief, too. I want, certainly, if the commission has any questions of you, but I think everybody's read all the material in the packet, so I don't know that we need to belabor this.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you again for listening to a few more details about this topic. We've got a presentation prepared, but with the comments to keep it brief, I can skip maybe some of the plan development. This was a short history of the tank that we put together. It was constructed in the 1950s. The last major rehabilitation of sandblasting and coating was conducted in 1997. Some recent inspections identified issues, and the city developed plans based on those inspections. That work was bid, and in 2019 the construction was underway with tank rehab. This is an excerpt from those two inspections of the tank. As you can see, the picture shows blotch rusting. I just want to take 1 second here. The coating was worn down in these areas on these struts, and that rust was able to come through the thin coating. Typically when this happens, you sandblast the coating off, you sandblast the rust, any loose metals, and then you can recoat the metal that was there. This is an excerpt from the plans that were prepared that identified coating the entire tank and some structural repairs. Actually, about half of the contract is related to recoating, and half of the contract is related to structural repairs on this tank. So there were significant repairs identified in the contract. The contract did not identify to any of the horizontal struts. There are 12 struts on this tank. 2 of them, after sandblasting, had significant metal loss. We did a more detailed inspection of the struts at that time, and we recommended that they need to be replaced. We requested of the contractor a price to replace the struts. They provided a price for that work. This is a picture of one of the struts after sandblasting. These white areas that you see, that's the sky showing through that piece of structural steel. The proposal for the work is $30,000 to replace the 2 struts. We feel that it's reasonable for the amount of work required to replace the struts. we recommend utilization of the contractor that's on site, that's already mobilized to do this additional work, and therefore we recommend approval of the change order.
Any questions? Commissioner Persis, yep.
Yeah, it needs to be repaired clearly, and I think just utilization on the on-site, equipment, for just to go ahead. I think we just need to go ahead and use that equipment there instead of moving it off and then paying to have more put on. I think that doesn't make sense. So I'm in favor of this.
Anyone else? Thank you both. Yep. I just need a motion to take the item off the table, and then we can have a motion as far as approval or denial. But we got to bring it off the table first because we tabled it.
Oh, yep. Okay. I'll move to put it on the table.
That sounds good.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Please call the vote. Cool.
Commissioner Kent.
Yes.
Commissioner Persis.
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton.
Yes.
Commissioner Selby.
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. And now we can, if there's a motion.
Yeah, I'll move resolution 2019-138.
Second.
Any further discussion? Please call the vote.
Commissioner Persis.
Yes.
Commissioner Littleton.
Yes.
Commissioner Selby.
Yes.
Commissioner Kent.
Yes.
Mayor Partington.
Yes. And I appreciate staff taking an extra look at it. I appreciate Deputy Mayor Kent bringing up the issue. I'm not thrilled about the explanation, but it was either a mistake or a bad situation, and we've dealt with it at this point. Even at a young age, I learned when you do a contract, you always have a contingency in there for things that would pop up unexpectedly, and this seems like exactly that kind of thing. And when you do that kind of work, when you're dealing with such a flimsy looking strut, you would be prepared for something like that. So it's behind us, and we've gotten all the additional information, so we'll move on. Now we'll move to 14A, and I think we're going to start with Joyce on this one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have received a request from Flagler County to provide utility services outside our city limits for a development that Flagler County is considering. I understand that Mr. Jeff Sweet, the attorney for the landowner, is here, and he may be able to talk a little bit about what the request entails.
I do have a card from Mr. Sweet. Did you want Gabe to address anything first, or?
I don't think so. We
Okay.
can answer any questions.
All right. Jet.
Mr. Mayor, members of the Commission, staff, Jeff Sweet, 595 West Granada Boulevard, attorney representing the owner of the property. This piece is in Flagler County. It is immediately adjacent to Volusia County. Property owner, one of the representatives is here, the Whites, and he will have a brief thing to say, Jim and Kathy. Bruce and Paige and his wife. Bruce is the president of Middle Coastal Bank, and then the one and only Bill and Patsy Baylor own part of the property. Bill Baylor has a major project and large construction company there on North US 1. What this request entails, it's a complicated process for the city to go outside of the city limits. It's even more complicated to go outside of the county. And there's a process that has to begin, and the commission has to authorize staff to allow them to explore the possibility of offering water and sewer service outside. So we're not asking you tonight to do it. We're simply asking that we start the process to see if it can be accomplished. The Flagler County sent a delegation down. They made an official request to a city staff and had their meeting and at least got started preliminarily. The property is about 24 acres. It will be approximately a $20 million project. It is the developer, they assemble and distribute furniture to Rooms to Go and other large companies like that. 250,000 square foot facility. They got to get trucks in and out, and the location there on US 1 is perfect. The water and sewer impact would be pretty minimal in the scope of the project. I mean, it's not residential. You're going to have bathrooms, kitchen facilities, and items like that for a facility that size. It is outside of both Volusia County and the city, and the city of Ormond is the only source of water and sewer for this piece of property. We're it. And the Flagler County has no capability, and the city of Benel, which is the closest municipality to this, also has no capability. Things I think to consider, positive development on that corridor. I mean, we have all heard tonight how we're trying to get the US 1 corridor, and this is going to be a fabulous process. Commissioner Littleton spoke about controlling development. If you want to control development, there's a couple ways to do it, and one way is have the unfettered right to give them water and sewer. And if you are outside of the city limits and outside of Volusia County, you'd have to approve every single development that came along. So, and if you didn't like it, it wouldn't happen. There is precedent for this. You did it with Hunters Ridge several years ago, and it seems like it was at least contemplated, because if the county line is here, the water and sewer is right there. I mean, it's literally at the county line, and that would not have had to happen. Microflex, that's the parking lot. They could have stopped that a long way back. I think the big question, if I were you, I'd say, well, if you want water and sewer from the city of Ormond Beach, why don't you build it in the city of Ormond? I mean, it's a great facility. Tax dollars are going to Flagler County. And I asked that question. And they need a close to 24-acre site, and it has to be close to I-95. And if you look up and down that corridor, or if you go out on Granada Boulevard, there really isn't a site that's going to lend itself to that big of a facility that's presently available, and they're ready to go. So we're asking you this evening to allow the city to initiate the process to look into furnishing water and sewer service to this particular site, which is immediately contiguous to Volusia County.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Sweet?
Thank you.
Jim White. Thank you. Jim, come on up. How are you?
Good. Jim White, One Creek Bend Way. Been a long time since I've been here, and appreciate what everybody's doing. I'll keep it very brief. Jeff has done a great job of covering all the pertinent points. Bruce and Irene, as well as the Baylors, and my wife and I bought this property about 15 years ago, obviously knowing the utilities were right there, and we had some conversations. People are no longer here and all that, so water under the bridge, water literally. But we felt like it was a reasonable request that ultimately we might be able to get utilities from the city of Ormond. So fast forward, through the recession, we've owned the property. Really nothing's happened with it. We've had it listed for sale, and we get a viable deal. And obviously, this is a really good company. I've actually been to Seminole County to see them. They're relocating from Seminole County here. I know they're going to Flagler County. I'd like them in Ormond too, other than I've got property in Flagler to sell them. But I think it's a great business for our community. I know from my 30 years in business and living here that Volusia and Flagler County are joined at the hip. And we're, where these county lines come together, as was mentioned earlier, it's very, very important that we work together. I know it's been done in the past. I think especially in the US 1 corridor, that having Ormond in some involvement and able to control what happens in that corridor is very important. This is directly across from the entrance to Plantation Bay, so it really, even though it's in Flagler, it's right there. It's an Ormond Beach location, in my opinion. The people in the ancillary businesses that come here, I think the people that live and work there are probably more likely to be in Ormond than they would be in Flagler. They're at least as likely to be in Ormond as they would be to be in Flagler. We've done this in the past with other developments, as Jeff mentioned. There really is no cost to the city of Ormond. I think the partnership with Flagler and the fact that we would be bringing a key anchor to the north end of the US 1 corridor is a very important piece of it, and I think it's good for our community and good for all of us, and I would ask you to support it.
Thank you, Jim.
very much.
That's all the cards I have. Any discussion? Questions for Jim? I think it makes good sense to move forward with it. But Susan, did you want to
No, you said
comment further? Okay. Commissioner Selby, and then Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I did talk to Bruce Page earlier today, and I also talked to Lisa Ford Strobeck from Ormond Crossings, and I also talked to, City Manager Shanahan and also Brian Rademacher about this, our Economic Development Director. This is my concern. My concern is this is a big deal. This is a $20 million deal. It's 24 acres in Flagler County, and this prospect did not talk to Ormond Beach. They did not talk to our Economic Development Director. They didn't talk to our City Manager. They didn't talk to the Ormond Crossings ownership group, and I would, at a minimum, I don't know if we could match the deal. All I know about the deal is what's written up in here, and so I don't know whether or not we could do that. But before I can support moving forward on this, I would like our people to sit down with this prospect and see whether or not we can make a deal with them in Ormond Crossings. And by the way, I have great respect for Jim White and Bruce Page and Mr. Baylor. I know them all, and I certainly don't want to, I'm the last guy in the world who would ever want to kibosh somebody else's deal. However, they can't build this in Flagler County without our water. And so because of that, I think at a minimum, we should get the opportunity to talk to them and see whether or not we can make a deal that would be acceptable to them. I have no idea if our land costs are comparable or if the incentives that we could provide or would provide are even comparable to what Flagler County is offering.
Anyone else? So I just need a motion along the lines of either approving staff moving forward with exploring this. I think there's a lot of stuff that Randy will have to do, and Joyce and Stephen, to make sure that we're protected and following the law. If there's that motion or a motion.
Yeah, I move approval for the city to look at, making this request happen for the utility services along North US 1 corridor for this development.
Is that all you need, Randy, as far as direction?
Yes, sir, that's fine. What I'll end up doing is preparing an interlocal agreement for the City Commission and Flagler County Council, and then that'll be the first building block in the process. There's some other things we'll need to do after that, but if that's your direction, that's fine. I can run with that.
Is there a second for that?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Any further discussion? Colby, please call the vote.
Commissioner Littleton?
Yes.
Commissioner Selby?
No.
Commissioner Kent?
Yes.
Commissioner Persis?
Yes.
Mayor Partington?
Yes. And
Thank you very much.
staff, can still, I guess, talk with the Project Columbus folks. My concern is they've made their decision, and I worry about lawsuits with tortious interference with business relationships and things of that nature. We don't want to get into that. But if having approved moving forward, if there's conversations and something changes, I think that puts us in a better position in regards to anything like that. So we'll move move forward with it. Stephen, the picture that shows the aerial of this property where the proposed warehouse would go, there's a, looks like an enclave business out there on North US 1, and I don't believe that's Microflex. Do you know what, there it is, what business that is in the little triangle there? This is how I work on the fly. But Brian, your job is to talk to those folks and find out why they would not want to be a part of Ormond Beach and have lower taxes. You see the triangle on the south side of US 1 there? I'm not.
It's south of Microflex.
This one you want, or?
That's the one I want. Yep.
Okay.
About a third of the way up the page on US 1 within the Ormond Beach city limits. That little triangle there that is not,
There's a clicker up there, dude.
doesn't appear to be within the city limits. Sure. Maybe.
I don't know what that is. We'll find out what it is and we'll talk.
Here we go.
I'm pretty
Right
sure that's
here.
Baylor's property.
Okay. Brian, if you could follow up on that. Thank you, Gabe. All right. And we will move on to the city attorney evaluation. That's 14B.
Did we vote? Okay.
I don't have any cards on 14B. It's just a discussion item to review and accept the city attorney's performance evaluations. Once again, it looks like, Randy, you knocked it out of the park. I'll let my comments stand for themselves, and if any other commissioner wants to comment, now would be the appropriate time to do so. Really, there's no formal action necessary. I think we normally just accept these as presented, but anyone else wish to comment?
Yep.
Deputy Mayor Kent.
Just Randy, 3 5s, 2 4.8s, cumulative score of 4.92. Great at what you do. Best in the business. Thank you.
Just thank you for all you do for us. You're always so helpful, and it's so appreciated and knowledgeable.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for putting up with me.
I would say only a 4.92. Wouldn't you just slack off or something this year?
Good stuff. All right, and so we'll accept that as presented and move on to 14C, which is likewise the city manager evaluation. I don't have any cards on that item either. Deputy Mayor Kent.
Joyce, highest you can get is a 5, and you're at a 4.9. Incredible. I am appreciative for your efforts each and every day. And again, you as well are the best in the business.
Commissioner Persis.
I totally agree with what Deputy Mayor Kent said, Joyce. I think you're an amazing woman. I admire you, and I admire all the things that you do for our city and appreciate it very much. So thank you.
All right. We could have Colby bring you the mic, and you could just drop it. 4.9, that's kind of unheard of. Commissioner Selby, anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to say to both of you, Joyce and Randy, you guys are fantastic. I think, and an indication, Joyce, of how much you are appreciated and loved is we were so grateful when Naples wasn't sharp enough to make the deal with you. And that had zero negative effect on our desire to have you as our city manager, and I think in a lot of other circumstances that, you know what the consequences of that would have been. So I think it's a great marriage, and I really appreciate your services.
Good stuff. Yep, Joyce and Randy both have the outlook and heart of a public servant. They're always working to protect the residents and the taxpayers, and they bend over backwards to do a great job for this city, not just a good job for the city. And so year after year, we're lucky, we're the beneficiaries of that, and that's reflected in their scores. So with that, did you want to comment, Joyce, or coming to you anyway shortly?
Okay, well, I'll wait until you get to...
All right, we'll go to report suggestions, requests, and start with City Manager Joyce Shanahan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for your very kind comments. But as you know, this is a team effort. It's leadership up here that drives what I do and what staff does, and none of it can happen if the city attorney isn't a partner in crime with you, if you will, helping us make it happen every day. Not partner in crime, but he helps us every day accomplish what we need to do. And so, Randy, I'm grateful for you. I know we drive you batty, but you're very patient with us, and we appreciate that. A couple of things. First of all, thank you very much for your leadership in adopting that emergency declaration ordinance. That's helpful when we're doing some repairs. Now, I don't know that anybody had any significant issues with Hurricane Dorian, but if they did, then you set the framework that they could make those repairs without having to have the extra expense of paying for a building permit fee. They still have to apply for the permit, but they didn't have to pay the cost. So we're grateful that you all do that. It sets a tone for our community, and it helps us with our reimbursement with FEMA. We kind of got delayed for 2 weeks because of the hurricane, so thank you for your patience for the 50-some items that we had on the agenda. I know I'm pushing my luck with that, but I really appreciate that. So we have labor negotiations coming up. We were supposed to have them the week of the hurricane, so those got delayed 2 weeks. I think they're happening next week or the week after. And so we want to have a shade meeting on October 15th to kind of give you the last round of those labor negotiations. And then on November 5th, we'd like to have an update with you of our health care plan update to show you where we're at with all of those issues and chat with you a little bit about that. We're back to our regular meeting schedule in October. Tuesday, October 1st is the second and final reading of the budget, and then your second meeting of the month is October 15th. So you have those 2 meetings, 2 more in November and 1 in December. So you have 5 meetings before the end of the year, just so you know, if you're planning ahead. I wanted to let you know that staff has received, that we've been notified by Volusia County of their intent to delete the Hand Avenue extension from the Volusia County Comprehensive Plan thoroughfare map as one of 26 roadways proposed for removal. The recent LPGA's sub-area study identified Hand Avenue extension as a key parallel corridor to LPGA Boulevard and Granada Boulevard. Staff is requesting that we be given authority to draft a letter for the mayor to send to the county chair, asking them not to remove that Hand Avenue extension from their comprehensive plan, because we believe that's a vital we know it's a long-range goal, but we're afraid if you take it off the map, then you're going to lose sight of that goal. So we think we need to maintain that. So I'm asking for direction on that.
Commissioner Selby?
Yeah, I mean, that was shocking that they had done that. I don't know if that's political, associated with the development of what would have been the second phase, the northern phase of Margaritaville or not. I don't know what's playing into that, but to just have that come out like that after, this has been such a priority for us. I recognize there's some significant environmental concerns about it, but there's a lot of roads built in this state and being built in this state that do, in fact, cover environmental areas or cut across environmental areas. So anyway, it absolutely, I believe, should remain on there.
Right, I do too. And I was at the TPO meeting, and they didn't bring this up at all. They didn't mention this, that they wanted to remove this at all. So it's kind of a shock actually, but
Good deal. I'm happy to sign it. So I think you have your
All
direction.
right, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and do that. I have nothing further unless you have any questions for me.
Any questions for the city manager? Assistant City Manager Claire Whitley.
Thank you. I just want to take a minute to say I'm grateful to work alongside Joyce and Randy, and they work tirelessly, literally, endlessly to implement your goals, to lead staff and serve the community, and they don't get the recognition or the support because they are the leaders. So I really appreciate this day every year. I enjoy hearing the compliments. So thank you.
Thank you, Claire. And Assistant City, or no, not Assistant City Attorney, City Attorney Randy Hayes.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I really don't have anything to say except thank you very much. I appreciate very much working for you and enjoy tremendously working with Joyce and her staff. It's a great group, and each year is a challenge. And it's interesting. At the end of the year, we think like we look forward to the coming year, thinking that it can't be any more challenging than the one we were just leaving, and it just seems to ratchet it up. And 2019 is been special this year so far, and it's not over yet. So I'm curious to see what 2020 brings. But it's a lot easier with your guidance, and we appreciate that very much. Thank you very much.
Good deal. Thank you, Randy. And before we start with commission comments, there's, I think, one item we need to clarify or find out how to clarify. I've looked at the editorial pages and seen some articles in the newspapers on what's going on with the septic to sewer item. And the North Penn, Randy, has always been different than other areas in the city. I wondered if you could, I know you've sent that all to us, if you could briefly walk us through that and then let us know what direction you need to make that clarification.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I've been spending a lot of time these days looking at the utilities issues on a variety of different projects. And it's interesting because they all have a connecting point, it seemed to me. And with respect to the issues in the North Peninsula, I wanted to really dive very deeply into the history to find out the origins of the annexation and the water policy. And it was a fascinating exercise. And as I was trying to determine the best way to analyze it, it came to me that there were a lot of things on about a 55-year timeline, event-wise, that were helping shape policies of the commission. And so I prepared a very brief report for you that I sent out on last Friday. But essentially, I will say that, and I've seen email communications from a variety of different sources, some for, some against. But the North Penn folks have always been different. They've always been treated a bit more special, in a special capacity, if you will. I was surprised to see that this issue goes back, from what I could find, to at least 1964. That's a long, long time. And evidently there were two referendums regarding annexation and water and or septic to sewer, one in 1964, one in 1974, and they both failed, in part because the residents in North Peninsula wanted to remain in the unincorporated part of the county, and they were concerned with the cost, which they deemed to be prohibitive to convert from septic to sewer. That was pretty interesting. And the other things that were going on was in 1979, the city commission at the time established the North Peninsula Water District, and it hired a consultant to do that, to study the area, to make some recommendations and determinations on the cost for potable water only. The law at the time, which is consistent today, is that you can provide water on a condition of annexation. Don't have to, but you can do that. And that was been the policy for the city here for decades. It's not uncommon with other municipalities. But prior to that, prior to the establishment of the water district in North Peninsula in 1979, the city was actually getting annexation agreements. from 1972 to 1979. There's 152 of them. I didn't know that until this year, until just a few weeks ago. I read every one of them, and it's the same consistent policy. I was curious to know whether or not the annexation policy continued after 1979, after the establishment of that sewer district in the North Penn, or not. If it did, it would tell me that they intended it, the city commission at the time intended for that policy to continue. And what I found was there really were no annexation agreements from 1979, approximate time frame that the district was established, through 2014. So that tells me there was a deliberate, conscious decision by the commission not to impose the general policy, water for sewer, to the North Penn residents. And the other determining factor to me was, in the district at the time, the proposal was to extend water to approximately 2,700 residences. We only had 152 annexation agreements, so the others weren't required to do that. And the city commissions in 1979 and forward never pushed the issue for the North Penn residents to annex as a condition of connecting to water. And there's not a criteria of annexation, either in the ordinance that established the North Penn district in 1979 or in the Code of Ordinances. And my interpretation through the years has always been, it's not in there. You can't force people to annex in the North Penn if they want our water. It's different for other districts. My memo, my report describes some of the things, some of the events that occurred after that. So that was in 1979. 1987, what happens? We get the Growth Management Act. So now for the first time, local governments have to adopt their comprehensive land use plans. We have various elements in there. And so one of the elements we're seeing now for the first time is the general policy, which makes its way into our comp plan, and it just keeps rolling over and over and over. There's no distinguishing remarks with respect to the North Penn district, except for some comments in the 1992 proposed amendments, which clearly recognized that the North Peninsula people were treated a little bit differently. There was a lot of activity from 1991 time frame forward. We had the Northwest One agreement with Volusia County. We had the Hunters Ridge Development of Regional Impact. You got development out there in breakaway trails. We have the establishment of the West Ormond Utilities District, which, contrasting to the North Penn, does require annexation or an annexation agreement as a condition of getting water from the city. So that's different as well. In 2014, we started getting annexation agreements again from residents in the North Penn. And I didn't know why until this past week or so. And evidently, in 2010, we were having some issues with Volusia County regarding some of the developments on North US 1, namely cheaters, outlaws. We kind of had to clean up those messes. One way we did that is we had to renegotiate our North US 1 service area agreement, took jurisdiction of those areas, gave us authority to annex properties for which we had annexation agreements on North US 1, also gave us the authority to annex properties along North US 1 that connected to our water but didn't have an agreement. And we discovered, obviously, that there were a number of properties that were on North US 1 that were receiving water, but they hadn't signed an annexation agreement. And that created problems for us as we're trying to clean up some of these other messes. And the planning director at the time, as a result of that, just instructed his staff, anybody in the unincorporated part of the county wants our water, they got to sign an agreement. It's a form that we developed a lot of years ago. Standard form, there's nothing special about it. And so from 2014 to about 2019, we now have about 39 of those agreements in the North Penn. So that's what happened along the timeline. But the policy really never has changed with respect to the North Penn. Now, the policy that's in the comp plan recites the general policy, which is a true reflection of what it's always been, but it doesn't really differentiate the specialized treatment that the North Penn folks have been recognized and existed under for the last
40 or 50 years. So I don't find it necessarily as an inconsistency as much as an opportunity to perhaps clarify the policy differences between the North Penn and the all others, if you will. And so I think at a minimum what we could do with the direction of the commission, our planning staff can begin the process to amend the comp plan to reflect that policy difference. We can also recite in our utilities code, which is in Chapter 22 of our Code of Ordinances and elsewhere if necessary, those differences as well, so that the differences are clearly understood by everybody. I think that will help alleviate some confusion. Now, the district was established for the purpose of providing potable water, not sewer. But the district does exist. So you do have the authority under Chapter 180 of the Florida statutes to provide water and or sewer. So if it's your decision that you choose to look into providing sewer, you do have the ability, the lawful ability to do that. Some of the things that you may want to consider that the commission back in 1979 considered was you may want to hire a consultant to help you look at those issues. It may generate some good information for you to consider and share with the residents, both in the city and in North Penn. Another thing that you may want to do, and past commissions have utilized citizens, like a temporary citizens task force or committee to help look at these issues. And if you'd like to do that, we could prepare a resolution, kind of like a temporary board, if you will, and you can each adopt or appoint, members within the city and members in the North Penn area, and they can help flesh out some of these issues. And maybe through the process of citizen engagement, everybody can have a pretty clear understanding of what the issues are, the information that may be helpful to an understanding of whether it's a good idea or not a good idea to provide those services. So you have some tools to work with. That's just food for thought for you. And Mayor, I know that went way out of bounds for what you asked me initially, but if we can get the policy direction from you, or the direction from you to start cleaning up the comp plan and the codes, we can do that. And if you want to give us any direction on any other aspects of this, we'll be happy to run with that as well.
Good deal. Yeah, I'd like to take them one at a time. First on the clarification, and then second on whether we want a task force or a steering committee or blue ribbon committee on septic to sewer, or whatever you want to call it. So we'll just go down the line. Commissioner Selby.
Well, I don't think you have to be covering this thing very closely to know that we're getting killed on this lack of clarity on annexation. I've been very clear, and anybody who's spoken about it, on our leadership team, whatever, volunteers, have been very clear that there's no attempt to, it's not about annexation, it's all about water quality. So I strongly support amending the comp plan and the utilities codes or anything else that needs to be amended to get that out there. Because right now, that is absolutely the single biggest objection to this whole project. It won't be the only objection, but it's certainly the one in the forefront right now. And it's the one that calls into question our motives more than anything else. I honestly, well, it doesn't really matter. So addressing that is really, really important. As far as the Blue Ribbon Committee or whatever, I really hadn't given that any thought. I really don't have a comment about that right now.
Deputy Mayor. Yes to all of it. Okay. Commissioner Persis.
Yes, no, I agree, and I think definitely we need to amend the comp plan, and I wish there was something we could do to stop some of these rumors that are out there, because that's what they are. And Dwight, I just have to compliment you because you've been such a cheerleader for this, and you've done so much, and for all this misinformation to be out there that is so untrue is, I'm sure, very irritating to you, and I think you're handling yourself very well, so I just want to compliment you on that, and I'm in favor of doing whatever we need to do to educate the citizens of Ormond Beach what our intents are.
Commissioner Littleton.
Yes, I would be in favor of clarifying the comp plan, on a contingency that that's the first thing we do, and we don't do anything else until we do that. If we don't crush the narrative that we have ill motivations, any blue ribbon advisory committee or something is going to be, it's not going to work. They're just going to go in, point to the comp plan, and they're still going to be angry. So I believe we should do that first, and then anything else can come afterwards. But that's what I want to do first.
Thank you. And I agree. We need to get that clarified. I think some kind of committee would be good that includes people who live in Ormond by the Sea. I think that'll give the committee's work some clarity and some representation, if you will, just to let them know we're listening to you, we understand your concerns, and we want to hear everything that you have to say as we make decisions on this matter. I think coming down the road will be some meetings like folks are calling for that will be maybe somewhat similar to the OB Life series, and that'll be something that is put out there to really answer questions, get a ton of information out there, and address concerns. And the city is excellent at citizen engagement, as recognized by the Florida League of Cities. And some people would say, well, the Florida League of Cities, you're a member, of course they're going to, well, they put those awards out to a private organization not related to them, independent organization, to determine who gets those awards. And so even with that, we were recognized, and I think that maybe call it OBTS Life and septic to sewer version, whatever you want to call it, it's going to, I think, really help with those issues. So the clarification, I think, is first, though, and then the rest we can certainly talk about later.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
just from a marketing perspective, we're getting killed because we're behind the curve on this, and but that actually, in my mind, we had to get through tonight first because the money hasn't been allocated until tonight, and it's not officially done until our second reading of the budget. So I don't think it would have been prudent to hold any town halls or any other serious communication efforts. And I think what you're going to see is I've talked to the city manager as recently as today about education efforts coming from the city, panel discussions and so forth. But I think you're also going to see some sort of a community group rise up that's going to advocate for this, okay? So go beyond education and go into actual promotion of it. But that won't be done by the city or city staff. That'll be a private sector effort. And so I think the combination of the two things will help us to, there are a lot of people who support this. There were people even at the most recent town halls that were held by our county council representative. They were silent. They didn't speak because the environment just wasn't conducive to that. So there are plenty of people who do support it, though. So
good deal. Do you need anything else from us, Randy or Joyce?
No, sir, but just to be clear, so we'll begin a process to clarify the policy and the comp plan, the land development codes where appropriate, and Chapter 22 of our utility codes where appropriate. We won't do anything further until that's done. I'll give you some time to think about what you may want to do with respect to a citizens task force or blue ribbon committee, as well as whether or not you may want to hire a consultant to help with that. So,
and Randy, can I just add, so that process, will that require like planning board review? And
it will.
Then it'll come back to us
yes.
for 2 readings?
It will, yes.
Is there anything that, could we pass a resolution like is it possible to have like a resolution at our next city commission meeting that outlines, what we're doing so we can at least, the problem with, you got to go through this process and then all of a sudden it's 2 or 3, I don't know, it's an extended period of time, you know what I mean, where we could hang our hat on and say, look, we passed this resolution at the first available meeting, and here's the process we have to go through, you know, to make it official or formal.
I could cook one up for you.
Okay, great. That'd be awesome.
Good deal. Joyce, anything else on that?
I think we're got some clear direction.
Good deal. And then we will move to the remainder of reports, suggestions, and requests. And tonight we start with Deputy Mayor Kent.
Good night.
Well done. Commissioner Persis.
No, I know it is late. I just want to compliment the city for all of the communication that was out there during the possibility of Hurricane Dorian coming to us. Jen, you did a fabulous job with your communication. Chief Severs, you did. You know, Chief Godfrey, everybody, Joyce. It was just like I knew what was going on every minute, and it was just wonderful. And I know from being the principal of a school who's run a shelter, I know just how huge that is to do. So I just want to thank you for all of that. It was just amazing. And with that, I'll say good night.
Commissioner Littleton, thank you.
I completely agree with everything Commissioner Kent and Commissioner Persis just said.
Good deal. Now we come to Commissioner Selby.
Gosh, okay, I'm going to make it. So the first thing is the hurricane. I was very fortunate to have left for family vacation on Tuesday prior to Dorian's, impending landfall. And we were over on the Gulf Coast of Florida, and we were scheduled to come home on Sunday. On Thursday, I was going to drive home. I was going to leave my family there and come back. And, obviously things change, and I didn't need to do that. And we then were able to stay until Wednesday because the condo we were in was available because the people who were behind us, chose not to come. So it ended up being really fantastic. But my comment is it had to have been awful to be here while you're just waiting and waiting and waiting. And then, and thank God we were saved and, we weren't impacted by it. So I just appreciate staff and you all for being here doing what you did. I also wanted to say thank you for staying on course on this septic to sewer project. I honestly believe, obviously, that it's the right thing to do. And obviously my motives have been challenged very aggressively by a lot of people. That's okay, but I feel bad for your all's motives being challenged, when it's, I know we're doing this together, but in any case, I thank you for staying the course. And then finally on the shelter, the homeless shelter, you may have read in the paper that the city has now moved the substantial completion date to November 11th. We have set a target date of being operational of December 18th. That's a Monday. So December 18th is the date that at this point, that the shelter would go live. Yeah, exactly. And with that, I will say good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Selby. And it can't come soon enough as far as the shelter goes, because I'm getting increased complaints about the homeless, and particularly on Lincoln Avenue. There's a large lot by the railroad tracks where there are some disgusting looking homeless camps that have popped up again back in there, and the amount of trash that they leave and the potential for disease for those folks is incredible to me. Also out by the Walmart, I've had a number of complaints out there, people being approached, and it's unacceptable. So I think finally when the shelter is open, we're going to have the tools in place we need to aggressively enforce the rules that we have, and hopefully that situation will improve. Commissioner Persis, you had one more quick thing.
Yeah, I just want to again thank staff, whoever ordered these silicone straws. They're amazing, and I know everyone that gets one is going to really, really like it. And I love the slogan, "One less plastic straw," that's on here.
That's awesome. And can I look at it for just a second? When you say one less, but really because it's a reusable silicone straw, it's more than one less. Yeah, so that's a great thing. And silicone, certainly renewable thank you. I think the kids are going to like them, and then Earth Day, that'll certainly be a great opportunity to give those out. I wanted to compliment staff. The paving on South Orchard looks fantastic. It rides very smoothly all the way from Han to Granada. And then on Facebook and on Twitter and probably on some other platforms, staff put the word out that that was going to be happening, so people had the opportunity to avoid getting stuck in the traffic like I did a couple times. But it was quickly done, and I think it only took maybe 3 or 4 days. There may be some touch-up things they have to do to totally finish it, but it's been a huge improvement. As far as the Commissioner Thompson, late Commissioner Thompson, and his family, hope everyone will continue to keep them in your prayers. He was a great public servant. Growing up as a kid, my dad would bring me to the meetings, and one that I remember in particular, I guess because I was a kid and I rode a bike, but a child had gotten their bike tire caught in a grate that Commissioner Thompson thought was facing the wrong way. So he bought the child a new bicycle, which I thought was cool. And then he also worked with staff to get those grates to face the opposite direction so it'd be safe for children to ride their bikes over. And that's just, I mean, I listed through all the other stuff that he'd been a part of in 15 or 16 years of service, and he was one of the great ones, so we'll remember him. As far as the hurricane, staff did great. Fire, police, the generals, they all ramped up and were ready to go. Luckily, we didn't need them at the levels that we might have. We certainly dodged a bullet there, but it's like a muscle reflex for staff, and it's not their first rodeo getting ready for these storms. Things get a little hectic and crazy, but staff manages to keep their cool and get done what needs to get done, so I appreciate that. On the shelter item, I was at the mayor's roundtable, and Ida Wright from the school board mentioned that they could use help from elected officials to run those shelters. Right now, teachers do it, or staff, administrative staff, I'm not sure which, but I had heard from some administrative staff that they don't necessarily get volunteers because they don't pay the people, even though those dollars would be reimbursable from FEMA. The school board doesn't do that, so one thing I would urge the school board to do is start the process of paying a reasonable wage for the people who provide that vital need of providing a shelter, and then requesting reimbursement from FEMA. I think if they did that, they would have more teachers and staff willing to volunteer for the additional pay, and that's something that could address that concern maybe before going out to the cities for that kind of service. Additionally, they're looking for more cots from the county, and I think that's something that everybody appeared ready to figure out a way to make that happen so that every shelter had plenty of cots. Just to go over a couple of things that are happening, Joyce, I've got the 2019-2020 key legislative dates. If you could scan that and provide it to the entire commission, they may have it under separate copy. I wanted to point out a couple great things that are happening. Tomorrow is the Aldi grand opening. I think it's at 8:15. We'll be there a little early for a tour, maybe 7:45, so I look forward to seeing you there if you're available for that. Back on Saturday, September 7th, TD Bank had a grand opening out there just past the Aldi, and they did a beautiful job with their building. They're a great community partner. They provided I believe it was $5,000 or $10,000 scholarship to Ormond Main Street, which was amazing. And then their entire store is kind of based on the history of the birthplace of speed in Ormond Beach. So if you haven't had a chance to be in there, there's a large mural and then a lot of information. But they did a really, really nice job. And it's an environmentally friendly build, LEED certified, that they went the extra mile to get. They didn't have to do that. So it was a great grand opening, and we welcome them to the community. Later that night, it was the first Saturday in our arts district, so there was a lot of people walking in the downtown, enjoying our beautiful downtown. And then provision packs over at the Ormond Brewery had a fundraiser that was extremely well attended, and that is a great charity in our city that does amazing things. They serve all of our elementary schools, providing much needed nutrition on the weekends for those children. And so it was great. Joined the Persises out there, and just an amazing night with a ton of people. Let's see. September 12th, Bronx House Pizza out by TD Bank and out by Aldi had guest chef Susan Persis, and I helped. I guess I was a sous chef. Make a couple pizzas. That was another great grand opening, and the chamber was there for that one. The place was packed. It was only 4:15 maybe in the afternoon. I forget exactly, but it smelled great, and they said they have been doing fantastic ever since they've opened here in Ormond Beach, so it's great to get that positive feedback. September 13th, we had this past Friday lunch with the mayor, another great group of 15 or 20 chamber members, and covered a variety of topics. And then Sunday, I had the opportunity to attend the historic New Bethel AME Church's 134th anniversary, and that was a fantastic celebration of a great religious community in Ormond Beach, and the community has supported that church through the years. It's been amazing to see, and it's a great story, and so I was proud to represent the city at that function. With all that, I will urge folks to attend the speaker series that the Ormond Beach Historical Society is putting on. When I first started going to these, I was thinking nobody's going to show up to that. It's boring. It's history. It's early on a Saturday morning. Well, I got there at 9 a.m. and it was standing room only. It was so packed, and everyone I've been to since has been exactly the same way. There's some great topics. Pick one that you like and get there early. They have coffee, and the speakers are fantastic. It's just another one of the great things that our Historical Society does, and they do it at the historic Anderson Price Building. So with all that, we will be adjourned at 10:24. Thank you.